Hey everyone, welcome to Dialog Choices podcast. We have a +1. Hello.
Hi. Oh, you were supposed to introduce me.
No.
I jumped in. My bad.
No. It's a
Oh.
mystery
Nobody knows
now.
him.
No one will ever know.
Hi.
Hey, it's my longest term collaborator in the history of the No, actually it's not actually. Wait. How do we math?
Yeah, I'm here too.
Yeah, I was like,
what
hang on
the
a minute.
fuck? Ever since you went independent, whatever that means in this context.
It's
that's right.
The math gets confusing. Andrew and I started first, but me and Bert have been more like contiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Because Andrew's been on year-long Let's Play vacations a few times.
That
Anyway,
sounds nice.
there's a lot of history in this group, and we haven't killed each other yet. That's impressive. Yeah,
It is.
Bird's here from Birdcatcher Games, Birdcatcher LP, YouTube.com/BirdcatcherGames, Twitch.tv/Birdcatcher LP, which doesn't make sense.
You're just gonna put this in the description of the video
Plays
anyway.
aren't on Twitch, Bird. Checkmate.
God.
Delete your channel.
No, he's doing it like what when streamers
I'm
play
doing it
video
right
games
now.
and they add like TV to their game names.
It's because Birdcatcher was already taken. All right. Or do you delete your channel on Twitch?
It should be Birdcatcher 69 then. What is the other?
69 wasn't funny back in 2011.
Oh, you're a boomer.
Don't lie.
The realization sound of that sentence. Oh, you're a boomer.
Oh my god.
Disgusting.
No, we all know I'm the oldest here.
I guess so.
What?
Including when Brian is here, which is kind of interesting as well. So what have you been up to, Bird? Why didn't you join us last week?
Last week I was hanging out with the Brian J recording Balan Wonderworld. Excellent little segue, bringing Brian into the conversation.
Yeah, he's not here though.
Yeah,
No special guest surprise.
No, I can speak on his behalf. I don't think our opinions really deviated from each other that much. Balan Wonderworld really sucks.
Yeah,
it really sucks.
yeah.
It's
I mean, I think it's rude to judge a game by its gameplay.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's funny because
Yeah.
I think Bird, you guys gave it such a better chance than Andrew and Keith did, but like you came to the conclusion so much faster than Keith and Andrew did, because I had the impression that watching you guys took like 2 or 3 episodes to get to a point where, oh no, this game kind of sucks.
No, maybe we didn't say it in that phrase, but like from minute 1 it was like slapping us in the face like a sausage.
Oh yeah. What I'm saying is Keith and Andrew didn't get to that conclusion very fast. You guys, Bird, you and Brian both.
Oh yeah, it flipped
like halfway through the first episode. You were all right.
No. Brian and I, we gave up on it real fast. I wanted to take you, Keith and Andrew, to join the rest of humanity in the correct opinion.
I mean, it was pretty inherently immediately not a good sign. It's just that like at the beginning you do have like the I don't know, like you get to play as the fun little tornado wolf, and there's an insanely hyper produced, fairly amusing like farmer cutscene, and you're like, okay. But then like immediately you're like playing co-op and the second person doesn't have their own camera, and like the abilities every costume only has one ability, and sometimes that means that you literally can't jump in a platformer, and it's just and then it all starts coming together, and then you get hit for the first time and you lose your entire power and you want to die because you just lose the entire power, and you're like, wait, that's just going to be the whole game? And yeah, sure enough, throughout the entire game, in a game that lets you take powers from other levels entirely and take them into other levels, like one hit loses the power and then that's it. You have to get it from its source again, and it's like it's actually a nightmare.
If you're player
to play.
2, that happens off screen because you don't have your own camera. So if you're not keeping up with player 1, you run away a little bit and then you get hit and you come back and you're like, fuck, I'm a normie again. And that's it. That's when that happens, that's when you just link up with player 1. Okay, just to clarify what that means. The
Linking up.
characters are magnetic in that game. So if player 1 and player 2 get close enough together, they bind, and player 1 controls all of the movement, and player 2 goes along for the ride like a monkey on player 1's shoulder, and you get to use your power, and that's it. That's your entire contribution. And that's, weirdly enough, actually kind of nice. That's a helpful mechanic a lot of times, which speaks to how bad that game is. If as player 1 you can be like, I don't want to play this for a little while, and that makes things easier, it sucks.
Yeah.
Balan Wonderworld sucks.
That game hurts my brain. I don't understand how it ever was supposed to
and
work
you said
out.
like the farmer is like fun or whatever. I think that every NPC is framed to be terrifying. Like, there's a huge farmer in the first level, and you walk up to him, and he vanishes into thin air after staring at you like a fucking gold, like Colossus. It's just like, what? Where did he go? And like every level has like these colossal people that just vanish as you approach them, and they're in weird poses, and it's scary every time.
They come back if you
lot.
keep walking backwards.
That's
What?
great. That's really good to know that they're boos.
What the fuck?
I'm gonna try that next time. There is a next time too. Brian and I said we were gonna beat this game. Well,
you have so little understanding of what you're in store for.
I know. I guess I should have asked if we were gonna play it today. Just think, instead of recording with you all, I could be playing Balan Wonderworld
Wow.
right now.
No, don't do that to yourself or to Brian. He doesn't deserve it. Okay, maybe.
Yes, he does. It was his idea.
It was his idea. Yeah.
But that was fun. Brian and I met in a lot longer ago than we even thought that we did. We said it was 2019. It was actually 2018. It's taken us
That's not a lot longer.
almost 4 years for us to actually record something in person. When the day that we met, we were like, yeah, let's hang out and record something in person someday.
Yeah, it's you're like right next
That
to each
sounds like
other.
normal adulting.
No, well, no,
Actually,
because a
hurried
pandemic
adulting.
happened in the middle. So that kind of threw a wrench into it.
I have people that have said, "Hey, yeah, we should grab a coffee sometimes," and I've never talked to them again.
Yeah. That
That's how
part's normal.
It is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we should record sometime. That's 4 years to do it. You guys both have YouTube channels and streaming things. Actually, does Brian stream?
Oh yeah, he streams like every Friday night usually. He does he's really into wrestling. And
Yeah, we know.
like I went to his apartment and he had like a bunch of like wrestling swag and stuff like that, and I thought that was really fun. And what was I trying to say? So he'll stream like commentating over Fire Pro Wrestling or something like that, and he does that every Thursday, and he has people bet on who's going to win. And you know what? Not my thing, but it's clear that he doesn't think it's real. And I'm like, as long as you don't try to pretend it's real,
that makes
like,
betting
then
interesting.
I can appreciate it.
Nobody thinks it's real. Only kids, 12-year-olds or something.
I know. So if an adult thinks
Right?
wrestling is real, it's kind of insufferable.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like the r/no sleep mindset where that you just need to not break the illusion. Like everyone knows it's not real,
Yeah.
but we have to all agree that it's real though. It's real
Yeah.
though.
Nah. I don't like.
So like economy.
Like the
I don't know.
economy. Hey, boom, boom,
That's
boom,
our
boom,
next
boom.
conversation. I linked a picture of a
Elden
Bitcoin
Ring.
graph. Oh yeah.
We
Elden
literally
Ring.
pre-agreed on what topic you wanted to bring up because I wanted to make sure
Our
you had the
next
chance.
conversation is
And then you
Elden Ring.
opened with a different topic immediately.
I opened with 2 different topics.
We're very good. We're very good at this. We're sweaty. We're sweaty.
Actually, no.
podcasters.
So
I mean, I can have a
I made
whatever
a
Bird
list.
feels like talking about episode. We could do this.
I made a list of like fake topics before the channel, before this recording, and one topic idea I said was the recording setup for Balan Wonderworld, but not the game itself. So we got it half right there. But
Mm.
God, Balan Wonderworld just really, really, really sucks. Here's another thing that is awful about it that we didn't anticipate. There are level specific power-ups that you need to navigate each of the worlds after low that starts in level 2. So starting in level 2, there's like these water blocks that you need a special power-up to traverse, and they're solid if you don't have that power-up. Only player 1 can use them. Player 2 has to either go along for the ride or die.
Oof. I don't
Um,
remember that from
It's
Keith's
not good.
Let's Play. Are you sure?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty fucking sure, Colonel.
Yeah,
Do not
so like
ever-
Don't you dare fucking
just-
question me.
You don't forget a second of Balan Wonderworld. That
No, I'm just
sears
saying-
into your mind.
I'm just saying you could be mistaken that it's not
No.
accessible to the second player.
Don't gaslight me on Balan Wonderworld, Colonel.
Look,
This,
the very
I mean, this is the
beginning
game
of my-
that's this game is the one that's so bad that like when you get into the bowling mini game, if you're playing as a
Oh,
fire
God.
character when it starts, your fire is still floating there the whole time while you're bowling because the effect doesn't despawn. And then when it keeps spawning in and out, the two separate players like modes of bowling. One, the stage has like little defects that can affect your bowling, that affect the hitbox and so on. But also like when the pins spawn, they can just fall over.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
It was
they,
the worst
nothing
thing.
about this game works well, and I've literally unsubscribed from a video essay channel before because they were so smug in defending this game and like as it, like it was
That's fair.
incomprehensible. Anyone could not like this game. I'm like, no, that's a deal breaker. That's just
Yep.
this, you can't be insufferably smug for 40 minutes of like scripted video about this game that is so indefensibly, clearly unfinished and just badly made.
Mhm.
Another interest thing that's really funny that happened in our session is like 3 hours after I left, Brian messages me on Discord saying like, hey, I think I'm sick. And so he took a COVID rapid test. He's fine. He didn't actually get COVID, but we started joking and we just said like, you just played Balan Wonderworld. You got the Balan flu, man.
Yeah,
It's
Aw.
a game that literally makes you sick.
the equivalent of like the PAX
Andrew,
Pox.
you were the tales of your playthrough. What are your thoughts about that shit?
I just had a lot of fun doing really obvious like oversight tricks, like being able to. We got
Mhm.
like the hedgehog power, and it lets you jump like 4 fucking times because it's like so you the power does is it gives you a double jump, but each person, so both player 1 and player 2 can use their powers at different times from each other. So player 1 can like jump, and then player 2 can jump, and you can get 4 jumps.
Mm.
Did you not
Yeah.
play player 2? Did you not like attach
No.
another controller with a human and like try it out, see what would happen? Like so much of player 2 is like, oh, I guess I can just get away with that. No one's gonna tell me no. I guess it's like
it's
okay,
very goofy that you can
it's-
co-op to just break the game in a way that clearly is not doable in the main game, to the point where I frequently wondered how you play the game single player, because you are so massively powerful in co-op if you can get it to work at all, because obviously it's a huge struggle. And when me and Andrew were playing it online, so Andrew had latency the entire time too as player 2 because I was streaming the game to him, so that was its own
I
thing.
had no
but-
idea the multiplayer was online multiplayer. I thought it was only local.
No, it's not online multiplayer. We were playing it that kind of online. I was streaming.
Oh,
We were
good
playing.
for you.
We were playing Steam co-op,
Nice.
and
yeah, not
so-
great.
the same way we played. We didn't learn our lesson from IP-op being literally unplayable when we played it that way online.
Oh yeah,
that was a very angry playthrough. But
that
no,
was
it's-
hard. That was a rough one.
It's just so much. It's just so fucking much. I don't understand how that game happens that way. How that game exists in the form it does.
It's very
Well,
clear that the co-op mode was just tacked onto the single player game. It's
Yeah,
so
with like
obvious.
no
It's somebody in my
consideration about how that would affect
yeah,
anything.
one of my favorite comments so far on the one episode we've uploaded to this point, because Brian is really slow at editing. But anyway, one of
It's
my
coming
favorite
for
comments
him.
so far has been like, this co-op mode is sort of like mom just told you you needed to add co-op mode rather than it was designed that way.
Mom
Oh
says you
man.
have to add co-op mode for your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Hi,
Shut
Mom.
up. Yeah.
well, did you
But
guys see? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say the cutscenes. They try to have both players in the cutscenes, but what ends up happening is it's like one player is clearly in frame and they're like set up and they're staged really nicely to be the center of whatever's going on, and then player two is just literally behind them, offset by like 2 in-game feet, and they just do the exact same animations at the exact same time, like a weird ghost.
Yeah, I didn't understand that even on from a single player perspective, let alone the two players. It's really weird.
Yeah. What were you gonna
Did
ask,
you guys
Colonel?
did you guys see news about there's more dirt that came out about Balan Wonderworld recently.
I didn't see any news
Uh,
about it.
Yuji Naka, who I believe is the director of the game,
Uh-huh.
last April said that I'm reading from Wikipedia, but there's an IGN article about it. Naka later said that he was removed as director 6 months before the game's release after completing over the state of the game, and that Arzest I assume is the developer, yeah, and that Arzest had submitted the game with unaddressed bugs. He said the decision to remove him was made by the producer and other senior product staff. Naka felt Balan Wonderworld was released in an unfinished state. Felt that.
Does he have eyeballs? Because you need that and nothing else to come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm under
know.
the
I think Andrew,
impression
you summed
that
it up pretty well, which is just obviously he's going to say that to defend his reputation, right?
No, but it is
yeah,
Square Enix, the
yeah.
publisher, so I believe him.
But he was directing the entire time. Even if this game wasn't ready to be finished, where is even one finished part? Like how
Well,
far like is Square Enix literally taking a game in alpha and putting it out? Because if that's the case, like how did you work on a game for a couple of years now and all you've got is a lot of costumes and no idea what to do with them? You're just like I have a train costume. You can drive on the train tracks
but you can
in
see
I
one
mean,
level.
you could definitely
Like
waffle
why?
in pre-development for that long,
yeah.
if you don't have good direction, which I
But I
assume
think
probably did not.
even with good direction, like making a lot of assets and then cutting them last second is something that a lot of games do. That's why you find so much cut content in video games, especially older ones that we have access to. The cut
But it's not
content.
even just cut. It's not even just that there's a lot of assets. It's there's a lot of like pies in these
Yeah.
hands. Like there's just too many pies. And like I don't need a bowling mini game. I don't need to double jump in one power, spin in another
Mm-hmm.
power, and then do a double jump
Mm-hmm.
spin in another power. Just fucking pick a power. Like
And then
it's
the
I think-
story
fine.
is
You
in
can
books.
like Mario did this without any flaws in Super Mario Galaxy. I don't know how hard this was. All you do is you get a mushroom and it changes your body. And then when you're
There's a-
done with it,
It could be so
There's an-
tempting to have a really shitty core gameplay and just think if I make enough assets to put on top of it, it'll cover up how bad the core is. And that doesn't
know why
work.
the
And that's
gameplay is-
obviously what happened with Balan Wonderworld. What are you gonna say,
Do you know
Colonel?
why the gameplay is shitty though? It's because they only have one button. They literally only use
Yeah.
one button, including for the select in the menus.
yes.
Terrible idea.
That's something that Mario
So-
the first game didn't do. I mean,
Well, that's
Sonic
what I'm
did it,
saying is
so.
that you Mario doesn't need to have 17 powers because you can make one power do 3 things or
Yeah.
4 things if you want to be like very advantageous. But like you have a controller with multiple buttons. You could literally have one of those buttons be a forced connection. Like, can I force
Yes.
magnetize to my
God, I
partner?
wish that.
That would be amazing. Instead of
Just
having to like
teleport to them.
yeah, instead of having to be a fucking stalker and like run up to them from the like behind the camera, like barrel at them just so you can like snap together, like you're some
And you
kind of like
move,
car
you both
crash
move at the
waiting to
same
happen.
speed.
Yes,
So
so
it's
someone can
impossible to
run
catch up to
from
them.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, these like I don't know. It's just that's a lot of just excuse me, a lot of
Bless
things
you.
overlooked.
Full-on flu.
It's
Full-on flu.
full on flu. I'm telling you, man, it's spreading, but it's a lot, and so fuck. Even if it's killing me from the inside. Even if even if this game was released in an unplayable state, I don't think he had a directorial skill to take this
No.
game and like rein it in. This is a guy who's like supposedly directed a lot of Sonic games, and Sonic still like his repertoire of Sonic games are like pretty rough too. Like it's
Mhm.
they tend to be games with a little too many mechanics in them.
Well, it's only half the first game that is bad. It's the half
What?
in the special
What are you
levels.
talking about? What the hell
Remember
are
the
you talking about?
Remember the special levels of the first game? The
Oh, you're talking about Sonic
game?
1. I thought you were talking about Balan Wonderworld still.
Oh no, not yeah.
I was
The
like, are
alarm.
you
Talking
saying,
that
are
one
you
of the most-
claiming that Balan Wonderworld gets good?
No, it gets worse.
It's a
Oh,
bit of a
actually, I
slow.
thought
It's
the
a
last
slow
level was-
burn.
I thought the last level
see.
was kind of interesting.
Balan Wonderworld is the Breaking Bad
watching.
of video games.
What I'm saying is that Sonic 1 anyway, for being one of the most influential platform games of all time and most recognizable platform games of all time, 50% of it is rubbish.
Yeah,
The mini game,
the first level's good.
Oh no. Well, what I'm saying is that the game is like deceivingly divided in two. There's the normal Sonic levels, and then there's the Chaos Emerald levels, and
Mhm.
those suck. Those are terrible, especially in the first game. But in the second game, like throughout the entire series, those are boring and bad. I mean, I beat
First
them all.
game's
and
Chaos Emerald things were terrible.
They were.
I like the Sphere one. I thought that was really challenging.
Oh no, they are all challenging. But I'm just saying why do you include that? Make a new game if you want to make that thing. Make a new game. Just
Here's
don't
a hot
put that stuff
take.
in my Sonic.
Super Sonic, that power
No, you
is
can get the power
fucking
just
awful because
Oh,
you
didn't like it?
move so fucking fast.
Oh, I
It
loved
is
it.
impossible to control Super Sonic.
Oh, I had the best time.
I mean, we also
I'm glad we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
I think one of the other most important factors here is that this is like Yuji's first time directing.
Yes.
He's never directed
might, yeah.
before.
has he
He's
done
been a
then?
producer. He's produced a lot of Sonic games, like all the Sonic's on almost pretty much every Sonic game except for like the first 3. Like so, all of the 2D Sonics he was a developer for, but he produced the rest of them, like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 or Shadow the Hedgehog. Like you can
There's an exception.
but
to
he's
that.
never had to direct a game before, and directing
He
a
has,
game
actually.
is something that you can absolutely be bad at. Like
He
it
has-
is,
he-
like
What do you
Yeah.
work on?
He directed Choo Choo Rocket ! Released in 1999.
Okay,
Have you heard
Choo
of it?
Choo Rocket's really good,
but that's a puzzle
but
game, right?
it is like it's like a puzzle game for the Game Boy. So
Oh, there you go.
the upside ceiling on like a fucking game like Choo Choo Rocket is quite low.
It's also
but it's
Game Boy,
fun.
So
Good. Yeah.
adding
Okay, so
mechanics-
so I guess it's technically his first like director.
It's not like there was
as
a story.
as
Yeah.
a platformer.
Yeah.
There wasn't a story this time
But-
either, so.
It was. They just took it out.
No, they're just telling it in the Dark Souls style.
Oh
You can
yeah,
read the item
it's the new era where you just make it not make sense on purpose, but it's deep for some reason.
It's deep.
We just,
Actually.
Balan
Lord.
Wonderworld just wasn't powerful and famous enough to have its own Vati Vidya to convince everyone that it was good
Yeah.
all along.
Well, they did
That was
have
the
their own
only reason it
activity. You just
failed.
unsubscribe from them.
Oh yeah.
Did I
And the
unsubscribe? From?
essayist.
From the
Oh,
from
right.
the Balan Wonderworld Vatividya.
Oh no. The one person
Got
that was
him.
too into it.
I think that's warranted though.
No, that channel hurt. I can't.
Hmm.
There's yeah. What about the recording I
Excited to
set
see
up?
where it
game.
goes.
Go out and
Yeah.
buy it right now. It's
No.
definitely worth your money.
It's
Not-
$6.
I hope the
so
Balan
expensive.
company does well. Hopefully there's no long-term effects of naming your company after the first game you made that was a failure. I'm sure everything will
did?
work out for them. Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that what happened with this is that Yuji Naka and co worked on this game for a couple of years. It was going completely to shit. Square Enix says, "You're done." They just pushed it out the door.
I don't trust
That's
Square Enix.
literally, that's how is it anything other than that? The game was in
Because they
development
do
for
that to
3
other
years.
things. They do that to other things. They did that to Deus Ex, and that's the only example that I can think of at the moment. But there's
Square Enix had anything to do with Deus Ex?
yeah, they published Deus Ex: Human Revolution and Mankind Divided.
Really?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I'm looking
let me-
this up.
Yeah, Square Enix
Deus
is
Ex.
definitely the new Deus Ex games. Absolutely.
And they shuttered the studio.
What do you
after that.
know? Yeah, I thought it was.
There's a lot of
Okay, yeah, it's made by Eidos Montreal, so I assumed that it was founded by Eidos and it's part of Square Enix Europe. Okay, what do you know? For whatever reason, I
Yeah,
assumed that it was
Square Enix
published
is-
by Canada.
Square Enix
By
both
Canada.
bought,
Mhm.
by Canada.
I mean,
Yeah,
Montreal's in
bought
Canada.
ED
It's developed in Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
What do publishers
Yeah,
even
basically
do? Break things?
mass layoffs after that, basically.
Did you know that
development.
Human Revolution was Eidos Montreal's first game?
Yes.
Yep.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's so impressive.
There's a
And their
certain very
last-
popular video that explained this in painstaking detail that certain people have watched maybe several times.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was this is the
Well,
most recent H
fuck
Bomber Guy
them.
video. Is
Oh.
this topic?
Oh, okay.
And H Bomber Guy is a lot more complimentary of the game than I personally am. I just could not. I could not with them having the punks be like, "Oh no, you're just polluting your body and taking drugs," and that's not done for a gag. That's not a thing that they. Oh look, the punks are non-punks. No, it's just
I don't
them
rem-
not having.
I played that
Oh,
game
it's a
so
very
long
side-
ago. I don't even remember how I feel about it.
Oh yeah, well that's the effect of their storytelling. They spend the whole first half of the game building up themes that basically the main story isn't about the themes that the game builds.
Yeah. I don't know,
0
for
out
a
of 10
first game
did
for a
not
studio.
revolutionize.
Oh no, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I honestly, I rank it above a lot of other games that have a much better story.
It's like it plays okay in a comfy way where you go through the whole game kind of feeling good about yourself, but when you look back, there's not really like a through line mechanically that makes much sense, and like the exploration's kind of a mess and kind of incentivizes you just to be able to do everything, and so you kind of just do everything, and so instead of like having like, oh, this is the unique way I got through the level, it's like, nah, I have every ability to open every possible thing, so I got through every I literally like, it's not like you have a route through the level, it's that you like you end up just permeating every element of the entire environment and opening every single door pointlessly in circles in a giant knot because you're like, I can fully explore everything, why am I doing
And you get
this?
experience.
Yeah, whereas ideally you should be way more limited, and so you genuinely can't take those other paths, and you have to find like things and solutions that work for you, either the ones that are kind of laid out for you or the more creative ones you can do alternatively. And
So this is a
it's just
problem
not
that
what
was
it
also in
do.
the original Deus Ex. And I think, I don't know, maybe this is a controversial, maybe everyone's going to disagree with my thought on this, but one thing you do to fix that is just like have a set of things that you don't, if you only get experience for doing one of them. So if it's like you open up the front door, you get experience, but you don't get experience for going through the ventilation shaft. So you can't like double dip on like an intended route through the game, if that
But
makes
that's
sense.
but the problem with Deus Ex is that, and the newer games have the same problem. It's not a problem. It's just the problem if you're approaching it from where you're coming from is that the game is designed not as alternative paths, but there's multiple routes through the level that you're gonna spend a few hours going through all of them anyway. You're gonna knock everybody out, or
What I'm
gonna kill
saying is
everybody
you
out.
need to disincentivize that.
But that's fun though, finding all the different things. I mean, like, okay, now I got to the place that's my objective. I'm gonna track back and see what the other path leads to. At least that's how I
No, if you
play games.
disincentivize it, then you get replay value. And it's
That's
like, oh, I
true.
have to go back through the game, but this time I take different paths.
That's true. But it's a game that you can save. And if well, how would you
I don't know.
disincentivize that? You'd have to force the player into like points of no return and stuff like that, which is
Yeah,
how
here's
many
what you
games do.
do. If you
Yeah.
open up the front door, it sets off like a weird Rube Goldberg machine that then locks the ventilation shaft.
Hmm.
Or maybe just you open up the
Or it's
front
just a
door and it
script.
blocks
It doesn't
it
have
just blocks over it.
it doesn't
Like
have to
there's
be
the
a
ventilation
room.
shaft behind the door now.
It doesn't have to
Or
be a room
you
machine to just a script.
you you go through the ventilation shaft and you bump into the door that you opened previously, and you have to close the door, and when you do that it takes away the experience points. You just get minus 100.
The
This is so stupid.
the thing with the original Deus Ex though is that most of the and like that's not all the time from my memory, but it does happen a lot of the times. Is that most of the multiple paths actually lead to one enemy or one single room
Yeah.
that you want to get in or kill. So it's not as much about disincentivize. Like what you're saying absolutely applies in that
Hmm.
case. Like imagine you need to knock this person out, and so, yeah, if you knock them out from the vents, you gain no experience or less experience. But if you knock them out from the front, then you gain more and stuff like that. That would work. But the thing with the newer Deus Exes is that it's just everywhere. All the exploration tends to be uh, like branching in that
Yeah.
aspect. But the thing is, like every branch has its own reward. Like they have their own loot, or they have their own like little
Hmm.
hacking mini
Oh
game or
yeah, I don't
whatever.
remember that. I just
It's
remember it more from the original Deus Ex,
mhm.
where it would be like you would go through an entire level, you would knock everyone unconscious, just and then after everyone is unconscious, you then go back through the entire level, like crawling through all the ventilation shafts to get more experience. You're not even fighting
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
You're not even sneaking away from anybody. You're just
yeah.
mopping up EXP.
But that, I think like Deus Ex is grounded or is rooted in one of the most fundamental premises of role playing game design of the
Uh-huh.
of last century, which is you need to have experience and skill points. And
Uh-huh.
I don't think that's necessary. You can make a role playing game without experience and leveling up,
Yep.
as long as you have, well, if you want to ground your game as well in like a character system, as long as you have like character customization and allow as long as you allow the player to start the game with, okay, I want to be stealthy, I want to be good at knives, or I want to be stealthy but I like hacking and stuff like that, and then you can really go all out in terms of having multiple playthroughs and stuff. But that actually makes the game more complicated to design.
Yeah. My turn.
Jesus.
Blonde
Blonde
flu.
flu is spreading all over.
Oh my
us.
God.
There's a reason they don't do that in role-playing games, because they're already really difficult to make. If you're adding the branching to the beginning, it just makes it very difficult. But the thing with Deus Ex is that it was a challenge to convince people that Deus Ex was a role-playing game back then, and it was designed with that challenge in mind. And it's something that the newer Deus Exes don't care about as much, because Oblivion and because Fallout 3 really. Um, back then, like role-playing games were things like Ultima and Fallout, and
Yeah.
I mean Fallout 1 and 2, and Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. So to come into the scene with a first-person shooter, a stealth action first-person shooter, because this company had already released, I think, Thief 1 and 2 at the time, so they were really good at the stealth thing.
About
And
Ion Storm?
yeah, unless I'm mistaken on the combat, because I mix them up every once in a while.
I don't think Ion Storm made Deus Ex. They made Daikatana.
Oh, it's Warren Spector. Warren Spector left Iron Storm. Iron Storm, I think.
That's
Or
true.
am I-
Warren Spector was the
Looking Glass.
he was the
Studios,
director
that's
of it, and he worked on like System Shock and Thief and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's not the studios; it's the director.
Yeah.
But still, like the paradigm shifting away from sort of more tactical approach to combat and into a more action oriented. That was a challenge, and even like it's a challenge that Warren Spector always wanted, even with
Mhm.
you mentioned Bioshock. Bioshock was marketed at the time as the smart man's Doom, because Doom was just shoot shoot shoot, and then in comes Bioshock. Oh, not Bioshock, sorry.
I can see that
System
for
Shock.
sure.
System Shock. I mean,
Mhm.
and like I don't remember this marketing. I just read about it after the fact because A, I'm from Portugal and we didn't get games marketing, and B, also I was too young at the time to know any of this. But it's kind of weird to think like how much the market not being as comfortable with role-playing games in first person actually affect the design of such an influential game as well. I mean, the thing is, it's not that role-playing games weren't in first person, but the ones that were things like Ultima Underworld and Might and Magic. No, Might and Magic.
Daikatana.
Actually, I don't know Daikatana.
Oh, that's a fun story.
Mhm. But they were very heavy on magic and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's different. Oh, it's John Romero.
You're looking at Daikatana right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the 90s.
Actually,
Yeah,
2000.
Daikatana was a first-person RPG game that was made by John Romero after he left Doom to go form his own studio. And the game wasn't very good, and the marketing was extremely cringeworthy because John Romero was like really, really full of himself at the time. He probably still is, hell if I know. But he just had like a magazine advert that just said, John Romero's about to make you his bitch. Daikatana. Like that was it. That was his advertising.
I've seen this. This is actually the first time I heard of John Romero. I had played Doom before, but I just didn't know about him. And I saw him on like on YouTube or something. I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I remember because like he drove like he was wearing a suit and smoking a cigar or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, that sounds like him. Did you ever play Secret
The
of
level
Mana?
of self-hype is just so much. No.
I played Sword of Mana. That's not related. Is it Sword of Mana?
Maybe. Is Sword of Mana a game?
Sword of Mana.
Yeah.
It's only Sword
Game
of
Boy
Mana.
Advanced. Sorry?
Anything to do.
It's a little mana as a treat.
Oh, okay.
No, sword as in like it's a sword. It's like a with a blade, and
yeah,
I know what a sword is.
And the girl turns into a tree. You know how it goes. It's always like that in Japanese video games.
100% of Japanese video games have girls that turn into trees.
I mean, obviously.
Am I wrong?
I don't know.
Elden Ring has a few.
I'll never know.
Has a few of those.
I'm a little scared.
I just spoiled Sword of Mana, by the way. You should play it. It's fun.
Oh no, I'm gonna. How will I enjoy it knowing a woman becomes tree?
The one woman.
You spoiled the woman tree.
You failed the Birchdale test. Fuck you all. That was great.
That was pained.
No, it was. I thought it was good.
You struggled to get that one out. Are you okay?
You have to. You need to do it like that. Otherwise, you just goes above our heads. We're too simple
Yeah.
for the sophisticated.
You have to
It's
say
too
it as
smooth
unreal.
brained.
you have to choke on it, otherwise no one realizes it was a joke.
Yeah. Exactly. Actually, Keith, you played recently one of your childhood games on your channel that I think was basically where all the ideas for Sword of Mana came from. Do you remember this top-down RPG game with turn-based combat that you played recently? What was it called? Or was it not a childhood game? Was it a recent game? Do you know the one? Do you know what I'm talking about? A little
Does the girl
boy
turn
lives
into a
in a
tree?
village. Lives in a village. In comes some person and says, "Ah ha ha!" Kills everybody in the village.
Oh,
Little
Golden
boy needs
Sun.
That's the one.
When you said
was
top-down
basically
turn-based, I thought it was a tactical RPG. I thought the
I
combat
thought
was
that's
like
what you meant too.
yeah, I thought the combat
never
was the
do
top-down
those.
turn-based.
You never play those.
Still
Still haven't played Baldur's Gate. You need to play Baldur's Gate. But
that's
Golden Sun.
That's a CRPG.
That's old.
Yeah,
God.
Golden Sun is a newer game, but watching the Let's Play, I was like, wait, that sounds a lot like Sword of Mana. And Sword of Mana itself is basically a ripoff of something else. I don't remember exactly. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page.
Not really a
Not entirely
ripoff
sure it
so much as a
exists.
sequel to.
It's not sequel. It's just the same story beats. It's just like little boy in a village. In comes a cataclysmic magic event that kills
It is
everybody.
a remake of the first game, according to Wikipedia. I think a
Oh, there you
remake
go.
of something being described as a ripoff is extraordinarily disingenuous.
It is. That's true. I was referring to Sword of Mana though. It being.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm not a JRPG expert. Maybe I'm being unfair. No, I'm not. I'm not being unfair. It's JRPGs. I'm being always fair if I'm criticizing them.
I'm always being fair.
Yeah. Have you seen how have you seen the effect it has in like so many games coming from Japan? The effect, like even things like storytelling in Elden Ring, for example, is just like that PlayStation 1 game that you're playing right now, Keith. It's basically the same dialogue system. Click on a character until they repeat their dialogue lines. And that stays with the game of the year 2022. Still the same thing 25 years later.
Yep, you sure do click on a guy and then they talk.
And then you
I've
think they're
never-
repeating themselves
Never
and they're
done
not.
that in
and
anything other than a JRPG.
Yeah, the unique
In-
JRPG mechanic.
It is, though. You don't get that in Western games, right?
Are you talking
What?
about when you click
Didn't
on
WoW
somebody and
build
they
an
just
entire,
go blap
like,
blap blap?
Legacy on that?
Yeah. But the dialogue systems in Western games are always more involved than that. Things like,
Bro, what are you talking about? You did the same thing in like Mario.
where's Mario from?
Or not Mario.
Got him.
And don't say Italy.
Wow.
Banjo Kazooie. But
Didn't realize we were gonna have a murder on
just
this
press
stream.
A and talk to people.
That's true. Banjo Kazooie. I think, but I always, maybe I'm wrong, but I always associate that to just
That's the
pervasive
British.
im-
That is the land of whatever people over there eat. Fish, chips. I don't know.
Fish
What
and
else?
chips.
But it was a game.
I don't think you do it together. That's a little too much. Like they have to have some kind of cholesterol limit. What are you trying to kill these people?
Yes.
It was designed for an
I'm
audience.
trying to take down the United Kingdom from the inside with one dish at a time.
I think the
Start out with the
that
fish and
countries are trying
chips.
to do that to themselves.
One
Yeah,
needs to
good
go.
luck.
Fish and chips are terrible.
I think pressing A to communicate with a player or communicate with an enemy or whatever, communicate with somebody is
Mhm.
pretty general. A is an input button.
No.
It's usually something you would use to like acknowledge a person. You're saying like Japan
I don't
invented
mean-
that concept?
No. I'm not. I don't mean the starting the dialogue thing. I mean the sort of dialogue pop up that the sort of stuff that the Elden Ring does. You talk to a character and they say lines at you. There's no dialogue. There's just them saying lines at you, and then they stop for whatever reason, and then you
Yeah,
click
like
on them
Sonic
again
the
and they say other
Hedgehog,
lines at
Sonic
you.
Okay.
Adventure.
Yeah,
I sort of see
that's
where you're
very
going.
common.
Yeah, you
It's a
don't
very
get like
common-
I mean,
a
it's
dialogue, like a monologue at you.
well that are you saying that is that unique to specifically where? Like what kind of games that's
I think
unique
it,
to?
no, I'm saying that it's common in games coming from Japan, and I think specifically in older games because they were limited to the technology at the
So
time and the cartridges and whatnot.
I do think
And
there is like a little bit of a bias limit here because like obviously a huge majority of video games came from Japan. Like most of the common video games that we would associate with having an A button come from Japan. Like that was uh
I don't know how to
I
break
like
down all of gaming into such a term and be like, okay, I can remember every game and how every NPC was ever interacted with, and I can say without a doubt, I.
what I'm saying,
like
A
are we
dialogue
counting
style.
what I'm saying is, can you imagine if The Last of Us had the Elden Ring dialogue system?
but isn't Last of Us like a cut like a movie? Like when you interact with
It
people, it's
feels
usually
like a
in a
movie.
cutscene environment where people are
They
like,
talk so much.
it's obvious who's talking.
Yeah. But outside of cutscenes, they talk as well, and it feels like a
Do
movie even
they?
outside of the cutscene. I thought they
I thought
don't.
they just like do dumb little quips at you, where you know, like a GTA, where you walk by,
Oh,
and you
maybe
say
I'm
something
wrong.
like,
Yeah,
hello, Frank," and you're like, "Hello,
but
I
you're
guess,
right though.
hello, hi."
You're right.
I
There's
don't,
a lot of
yeah,
cutscene dialogue.
I don't think it has like the pop up. Like I don't think a text box pops up and it's like, "Hey, hey, Joel, what you doing with a child? I thought you were maidenless." Like I don't think it does that. It just it like all of its dialogue plays through cutscenes, and then like any other time that you hear other people talking
I
to
think
you
you're
is
right. Yeah.
generally it's like cutscene. It's like an in-game cutscene. So you like walk into a room and someone's like, "Hey, it's you. I'm gonna tell you about a thing." You're like, "Oh, okay, thanks,"
But
and you just like keep walking.
that's how RPGs do it as well, like Mass Effect and uh,
All right.
I just
you
thought
know.
that was
How about this?
yeah.
In the most quintessential American RPG that's ever been made, The Sims,
Oh,
you make your character go up and talk to another NPC by clicking on them, and then they talk at you for a little while, and then they leave. How about
Oh,
that?
Zigo Zango Gago. Oh, Chapachita.
I mean, they technically
Fucking
talk
press the
to.
Sims button on Kernel.
quick
They do
switch
technically
back.
talk to your Sims and not you, and you are not
Oh
your Sim.
shit.
You are merely a caretaker of your Sim, but you are not the Sim.
Uh,
Chapachita.
you weren't able to. You weren't able to truly.
Got so
Jesus, that's actually a
Sorry,
good
I know.
impression.
I'm
Well,
not doing the same exact lines. I'm not that good, but it's close
no,
enough.
but you got the inflection right. Pretty
Yeah.
close, the way I remember it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
Yeah,
yeah.
Andrew, you're saying you couldn't emotionally invest yourself into your sim?
Like you were doing scat, man. I don't know why why your Simish sounded like that to me.
English, actually.
I'm just like imagining a like some Sim wearing a like a suit and a little bowler hat. It's like skadap bop bop skadai skadada bra bra skadap.
That's pretty good.
Like, what are you doing? What is this thing? Is it all right? You have to like bonk it a few times to restart it. The no, I couldn't become my Sim. That was weird. It
I don't
I
think it's
preferred to be
possible.
in the I preferred to be in the role of God. Like that's where I'm supposed to be. Supposed to be just sitting there being like, look at you, pathetic little thing. I'll do this for you. And you're like, you can't remember to go to the bathroom, childish little meat sack. I will remind you. Like it's it
You
won't.
childish meat sack.
It's just like sitting there, like eating
Got so
macaroni and
mean.
cheese for the 5th time in a row, and you're like, all right, well, you
Oh
do
no,
have
he's
to like
got
take a shower.
depression.
Yeah,
Look
but
what
you
you've
know,
done.
depression can be cured by someone forcing you to not be depressed anymore. At least that's
Or
what the
just by
Sims taught me.
choosing. You
Yeah,
just choose to be happy.
unlike in real life, you can just mod depression out of Sims.
Yeah, just click delete on the modifier. Actually, I didn't, and I still don't. But even at the time, because I was learning how to play games when I was playing The Sims. Was one of my first really passionate passions in gaming. Um, I never really thought of myself as the character. I never tried to mimic me into the
Don't
character
think
in the game.
anybody
Par-
would.
But that's something that people do in role playing games, though. And I don't do that in
Yeah,
role playing games. I always think
The
of like I
Sims is
role play the
not.
character.
Oh,
The Sims is a role playing game. What do you mean? It's one of the best. Just
you're
doesn't
right.
have a very good story. That's all.
Here comes the
You
war.
don't save the universe a little. I thought Sims
I don't
was
know.
always
That's what my sister always did. She would just make herself and then her friends or whatever and put them all in a house and then like attack each other. And that was pretty much like the way that she played the Sims. So I'm assuming people can just like become a sim. They're just like, that's me. Look it. I have
I'm
an
sure that-
ugly
yeah,
face too. And then like you send them out there and make them make friends and you're like, haha, that could never be me. And then you just
Aw.
enjoy life or whatever
could
as a
never
sim,
be
like
me.
through their I don't know. People like when you make a sim, it's kind of comical because I'm like, there's no way you could ever even be like 1% of this creature you're about to make. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the thing is just so ungodly motivated. Like you just tell it to do anything, it's like and it just runs doing the thing. Where like a normal person would sit there for 5, 6, 20 years and contemplate whether or not they want to even get up and like exercise. But the sim is already like
Hey,
become the heavyweight champion by the time a normal person decides to do something.
I resent that. I also take a lot of Ritalin, but I still resent that.
How much time did it take you to pick up weights?
I don't have any weights in my house.
Still not doing what Sims are doing day one.
That's a
They-
fucking
I
good
never got
point.
weight.
Andrew just
I
tried to
never got
will me
weights
into
to my sim.
exercising, and I didn't.
It's a terrible idea to do the weight machine. It's much better to do it with a pull because you just it fills up
That's
your
true.
fun. And I mean it takes a little longer, but like instead of feeding the fishbowl and observing the fishbowl, you can just go to the pool a little bit and that's fine. It's much better. Unless you're not very outgoing, in which case sucks. You need to make a sim that is outgoing. That's like it's neat and outgoing. Those are two things that I always go for.
I wonder if anyone's ever cried at their sim dying.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
sure,
Children
yeah.
played The Sims. Someone had
Yeah.
to like
Somebody learned
been-
death that way.
I was a children when I played. Yeah.
Mommy, what
Yeah.
happened to my sim? Oh, it's time for that talk, huh?
Well, in The Sims, there's a Grim Reaper, so the talk needs to be modified. Unless it isn't.
And technically, he is very lazy. You can win against
You
him
bag.
if you
Yeah.
can convince him to not kill you, because he doesn't really want to do his job anyways. But it
Mm.
takes a lot of effort and a really expensive TV.
In The Sims 2, there is an item that Sims 2 is really broken if you have more than a couple of expansions. But there's an item that you can get that basically denies you, or it doesn't deny you, but if you beg to not die, you don't die always. But apart from that, you need to be lucky in all the games. I don't know how it is in the latest Sims 2 or in the latest Sims because Electronic Arts is terrible.
Wow.
Am
That's
I
a
wrong?
fucking hot take.
No, it isn't. It is.
Didn't
It's
realize
the
we're gonna
stalest
break
of
say
new
that.
ground today.
Just say that while the CEO is sitting right here.
That's a
I thought you were
confusing
Ubisoft.
joke.
I thought you were Ubisoft.
Who,
Who's
me?
No, absolutely
Andrew.
not.
Isn't Andrew
Oh.
Wilson
Oh,
the
it's-
CEO
oh,
of
yeah.
EA?
CEO? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Oh, way to dox me,
weird.
Keith.
Way to talk to you. It's the joke. It's the entire joke you made. So an hour in, maybe did you want to introduce the topic you wanted to start the podcast with, Bird?
Nah, not really.
I want to.
Do you want to talk
All
about
right,
the
girl,
graph?
you introduce
for it.
The
topic.
mysterious graph?
Oh, the
Which
graph.
is
No,
that's still not the topic. He said no to that one, so I'm like, all right, you want to talk about the fucking graph now, bud? I'll
No,
play on your
I don't want
level.
to bore people with math.
I'll go into chaos mode. It's not math if it represents something you can make fun of.
the price of graphics cards.
Why does it sound like you can't make fun of math? That you can definitely make fun of math.
Of course you can. Math doesn't even divide by 0. You need to add
What a
like all sorts of. No, right?
What do I
Quite
even
stingy.
do with that?
All right, so the topic was the upside down statue in Elden Ring.
It's called inverted statue. Get it right, bird.
Yeah, this isn't
You-
Stranger
you-
Things. Calm down now.
You called it the upside down statue,
It was.
and I
it
wrote
was,
down in my notes upside down statue. You set me up.
It was
You
bait.
set me
I set you up.
How could you do
I
this?
set you
It
up.
was based.
No, but also based, but it was bait.
Based on a lie.
Oh.
Yeah, well, basically in the latest episode of the Andrew's Let's Play of Elden Ring, he gets to the Carrion Study Hall or something to that extent. I don't remember exactly the title of the tower, but you have an item in the game called Inverted Statue or Carrion Inverted Statue or something to that extent, and it's literally just a normal statue, but they put the item upside down. And so they call it inverted statue. Literally any item could be an inverted item, but as long as you put it upside down. But they don't. They don't do that. Only that one. It's just a normal statue. Why did they call it inverted statue? And
This was your opinion on it?
This was my opinion on it.
You
I
didn't
told
tell
you
me
this-
what you were going to talk about. You mentioned you want to talk about the statue. I didn't know you were going to talk about this aspect of the statue. Fuck.
Just
did,
the
I
fact that
mentioned
they
this.
call it inverted when you could just flip it over because you're holding it.
Yeah, flip it over. It's a normal statue.
How do you know when a
How did I
statue
do it?
is an upside down statue versus just being a
But-
regular statue when it's in your inventory?
Exactly.
I'm glad
And this
I get to the
statue's
bottom of
given to
this
you.
once and for all to save the gaming community.
This statue is given to you by an NPC as well, and they tell you it's an inverted statue. So it feels like the worst scam. Let me see.
Worst
But it's like
scam.
somebody, you're getting pissed off at somebody advertising their beer is cold when you're like, no, I determine the temperature of the beer in my house.
Well, if they give me a beer and it isn't cold, and they claim that it is cold, I'm gonna say that it isn't. Right? It isn't cold,
Yes.
but it doesn't
But do you
preclude
get
the
mad
beer
about
from
it?
ever being cold. Right? You just say it's beer, cold or otherwise, and the statue is the same thing. Just because it's inverted at that time, like I flip it over, it's no longer inverted. But like,
They're using video
Doesn't-
game magic to communicate the fact that you need it in order to do the inverted part of the game.
there's a much better video game magic that they could use. It's called a journal or compass markers. They could
What,
do
you
that.
get the Calum statue or something, and then you're
Yeah.
supposed to, it just says something like, this might be something you can put upside down, but they don't call it the inverted statue. Is that what you would prefer?
I honestly I would prefer them just to be like, go to the Carrion Study Hall and there's like a little thing next to the bonfire. Put this there.
I mean, my struggle with
And
that
I'm like,
game is
oh.
that sometimes they do basically kind of say that, but I'm like, what? It's the
Yes.
key to the Wumpus, and you're like, where the fuck is this map's fucking huge, and I have 500 like sites of grace now. I have no idea what they're talking about. I feel like every
Even
time the
when the-
game talked about any location, I had no idea where they meant, and I just had to
Exactly.
hope to find it, and that was such a struggle. And that was an example
Remember
of that.
that-
I'm like, where the fuck's the Carrion Study Hall? I somehow managed to go like around it and didn't go because that in particular, I think Liurnia of the Lakes has like
Yes.
less directionality to it than like any other zone in the entire game. So you just kind of go in a bunch of random directions. You're like, I don't know. I feel like I explored it maybe, but like my version of explored it had not found the insanity area. I had not found the study hall. I had not found the 4 lighthouses. I had not found
You
like
didn't-
several really significant things, but the map looked really filled in. And I'm like, I didn't know there
Yeah.
was more. How do you know when there's more?
You didn't find that one NPC that the crab person was pointing to, just saying it's to the east. You didn't
I
find that
never
dungeon
did the
where they said,
lobster guy quest because I don't
"Of
know
course
how.
I
not. It's
didn't know there
impossible
was a
to
lobster
find."
guy quest.
There's a guy
It's
frying.
impossible to find.
I think they're called something besides lobsters, but like there's a guy just having a
Yeah.
fry, like having a regular old like fry, just in the middle
Yeah.
of the place, and
And
I
the-
have
the
no
worst thing
idea
about-
what they wanted from me, and it never progressed. And it was probably
actually,
stage 17 of some obscure side quest that starts somewhere else or something.
no, it
'cause
isn't.
all he does is say "fuck off" every time you talk to him.
It isn't. So what happened to me on that quest is I found the other NPC for that quest, and she was like, "Oh no, you also got the directions. Patches told you, Keith." And I say you, Keith. I'm sure
He says a
also
lot of stuff, and most of
Bird
it's traps.
Yeah.
Remember,
him.
yeah, also that. But remember when Patches said there's this lady to the east of here, and you
No.
went and looked east and you didn't find her, because of course you didn't. Because
Yeah,
of course.
where the fuck does that mean? In the
Yeah,
irony
yeah,
of the
it's
lakes
just
of all
interacting-
places, it's like go in that
just
direction
someone
vaguely.
interacting.
You'll find it.
Yeah. And when you do find her, she tells you there's this man to the west of here, and then you go, I went west and I didn't find the crab man. I didn't because of
I've
course
found
I didn't.
him. I see him all
You
the
found him,
time,
yeah.
and I've never found any other component of that story.
Yeah, the story is actually like it's an interlocking quest. It didn't miss much. All of the quests except one, all of the quests in Elden Ring are just dialogue. That's all they are, and except
Yeah.
the only one that isn't is the dude with a hat, where you get to invade some places. That's the only one. Well, and the main quest as well, I suppose. But all the other side quests, if you pay attention, it's just dialogue. It's just people being like, these grapes taste really nice. Bleh. Or whatever. You know. It's just
Swear to
dialogue.
God.
And I got that impression a lot when I, near the end of the game, I was like, okay, I know there's this character that I never talked to, the lady of the grapes. Let's go and look for her. And I looked for her, and it's just dialogue. The entire quest is just figuring out where she is, going up to her and clicking A bunch of times until she says the same thing, or disappears actually for her. And then she's in all these inane places, so you're really meant to just get her the first time and then find her as you play the game. But if you miss her the first time, you're done. You need to look it up. And then after that, I did the quest with the. Actually, I did half of the quest with a warrior queen that shows up in the game. I did half the quest, and it was also just talking. And you did. I saw at the end of that quest on your Let's Play, Keith, and it's also just talking. And you get like a good reward at the end. But it's not. It's Elden Ring quests are just dialogue, which is fair because that's how Dark Souls does. Well, actually, no, that's not true. Dark Souls 1 has a lot more than dialogue. The Solaire quest is like you need to save him. You need to like find different NPCs. Huh.
Are you okay? Do you have a
I'm
moment?
wondering if
Did you just have a moment about
yeah,
Solaire?
I'm thinking that they regressed in the quest design for Elden Ring.
They might have a bit. Some of them are pretty fucked. Like, I don't know.
Well, you made it too big. Of course, they regressed in some
That's
areas.
also-
Like some
yeah.
things,
Yeah.
you have to make some sacrifices to make a scale that large, and that's normally okay unless
Yeah.
you've made a bunch of other games that people have a built expectation of quality for them, and then people
Mhm.
are like, "Wait a second, this isn't like that Dark Souls game I like you making."
I
And
don't
then-
sound like that.
I have bad news.
What?
Nothing.
I sound like that a little.
No.
I
But,
just
yeah.
I
What?
with I'm kind of disappointed by Elden Ring, and like I feel like Sekiro was disappointing to me in ways where it's just like they just made a different game for different people and whatever, but like with specifically Elden Ring, it feels like they made a game exactly for me in a lot of ways, and it just wasn't. It's like but it's so compromised by being an open world and going so far in a lot of ways, it just doesn't seem like it was worth it. I just think that it just overall just didn't pay off. It just wasn't a good idea.
Torrent
Yeah.
sucks.
Torrent Torrent sucks. Torrent does suck.
Anything
I
horse
agree.
is just awful.
I agree. And like you're not even I thought your experience, Keith, was gonna be a lot more compromised by you just going off and exploring early on. While people in the comments were telling you to explore, which was brilliant. But
Why isn't
I
this
think
guy
you're
exploring as only exploring?
I
Comments
think
are
you're
weird.
getting mostly a similar experience to what I got doing the complete opposite of what you're doing, which is like exploring every nook and cranny and still missing stuff because obviously,
Yeah.
yeah. You're getting like you're taking about as long as I did to finish the game. I think you're having a harder time though. I don't know if it's your build or maybe it is your build, but I get the impression that I had an easier time with certain enemies than you did. And you just take so much damage, and I didn't, and I don't know why. I do know that like you get more defense, just base defense and damage resistance as you level up. So it's not all about down. It's not just as about the stats. It's also just the level. The level itself.
Your literal level changes your
defense.
damage. No matter how much I play this game and no matter how much I level up and get stronger or whatever, it's like it is frustrating that like my health bar just dies in 2 hits the entire game. Like
Yeah.
it is a flat stat curve, it feels like, but then a rapidly escalating difficulty curve because the enemies just keep getting faster and faster, and my character, all their leveling up does is keep up with the rate of dying in 2 hits. And it feels so absurd, and like people like take off the things that raise your stats but amplify your damage taken. You take those off, you still die in 2 hits. I'm like, well, I don't even know what they changed.
Yeah.
So confused.
It's funny because I remember like 20 hours into the game saying, "Oh, Elden Ring is so much easier than any other Dark Souls game," and I don't know. The end of the game is definitely a lot more difficult than the early game, but also I think that is due to the fact that you can just skip, or more easily skip bosses that you are having a tough time and come back later. Because you can also do that in the previous games, just a little bit more complicated because there's a little bit more back and forth with the bonfires and whatnot. But Elden Ring, I think, really just they really went all out with the difficulty at the end, and I in particular, I think there's a couple of bosses that are broken difficult. They're like, that's not, you shouldn't make a game like this.
Yeah,
it's benefiting
at some point the game feels so overtuned, but also like it's so long and there are so many of those bosses that it's like it's just kind of exhausting to think about playing through. Like and that's even at my relatively slow, I'm doing a let's play pace. I don't understand people that just binge the game, like how they got through it, because yeah, like it's like it used to be that like Genichiro or whatever was like the big fight in the whole game of a game, and in this game it's like every fucking hour there's another fucking tentpole insane boss fight, and sometimes you just beat an insane boss fight to just walk into the next room and there's another one now, and it's like I've been putting off the end of the game for like a while now. When's the last time?
Oh, you haven't finished it yet.
When's the last time I recorded Elden Ring? I last recorded it June 18th, and it's July 10th. I did the part where you reuse the boss arena of one of the Elden Lords and fight Ashura's Wrath, and I'm like, I this game's not over, so I know it's gonna do the fucking like the Bloodborne thing, basically, where you just walk into another boss fight immediately. I'm sure. Like, I don't think there's more zones left even, and I'm like, I don't feel like doing another one right now. And I just like logged out for the day, and then I've kind of just not logged back in for like 3 weeks, which isn't the best thing.
Popping up the remaining like quest lines that seem vaguely interesting, and I just for completion's sake, I did go to at least every zone. I didn't fully explore a lot of them, but it was like I just want to make sure I illuminated most of the map before calling it done. So I'm probably going to polish off that series in another day or two and then move on.
The exploring most of the map experience, for as far as I know, as far as I could get that experience, I should say, is really the case of like if you think you explored most of it, then you probably explored half of it.
It's
Because
so
there's-
much.
There's like nooks and crannies everywhere.
It's so
And-
dense, but also half the time you find anything new, you're kind of punished by having it be like, yeah, but was it worth it? Like, you fought through another mine that looks like all the other mines, and then you fought a recycled boss at the end, and then you got a spell you can't use.
Or if you're at the
Yeah.
end,
So much of the
Instead of-
playthrough is that. And you're like,
I'm
but
getting
what-
that a lot.
And I'm like, but
Or
what
if
if
you're-
it's cool this time?
if you're near the end of the game, instead of a dungeon, it's just a huge boss in like this weird nook of the map for no reason. Well, I guess there's another dragon. Well, I guess there's a super lobster. Well, I guess there, all this stuff.
Hmm.
Kind
I
of
didn't think
weird
it
that they
felt
do
me
that.
doing a strength build where I'm like, wow, all of this is worthless. Why am I even here?
Yeah,
All right,
really.
cool. Thanks, I guess. Like
Your build
every
is
enemy just
brutal.
drops. Yeah, like even all the fancy weapons you get that you can turn into the old crone with the finger. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing to do with it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna turn this in. She's like, all right. Well, you can't use any of these items. I'm like, well, all right. Well, I guess I'm glad I have this. Cool. And so I just sell all of it to the blacksmith. I'm like, free souls, I guess. Great. It's just I
Midway-
just don't interact with like half of the weapons, half of the armor in the game. Just like all of it is worthless to me. But every time I go and kill a boss, I'm like, that just happens to be worthless to me. Awesome. Just after, yeah.
Midway through the game, I sort of came up with the idea, while just sort of having more of a critical attitude towards precisely what you're referring to. So many weapons and so many items that you basically don't interact with, either because you can't or because it's just you're tired. I thought a good way to fix the item bloat in Elden Ring would be to, instead of having your move set attached to the weapon you're using, you should be able to just make up your own move set. You should have like a menu where you say, okay, normal R1 is this move over here, and like you learn it from maybe a completely different system, or maybe you learn it from the same systems that you learn spells or whatever. But just being able to I like my broad swing on R1, and I like my piercing reach attack on running R2. I like those, and I like piercing attacks on jump attacks as well. And I should be able to have those piercing attacks or broad swipes in R1. I should be able to have those moves in any sword or ideally any weapon, but specifically a sword. Like, because any sword can be used like that. They're just less efficient. And so what?
Really
what if,
interesting thought. I feel like a lot of the Souls games, they have like a lot of variants of move sets on every single weapon, but
Mhm.
it's like not really utilized very well. It's just light attack and heavy attack, and those differ, but who cares?
Oh, you think they're not utilized very well?
Not really.
I focus so much on my enjoyment of those games in precisely knowing my move set that I think it's important to know to know intimately where your what your
Ooh.
attacks do. I look at my footage and sometimes I pull stuff off that I just do it instinctively, and I'm like, my God, this is I'm not even conscious that I'm doing this stuff. Like
Vihander Kun, what are you doing?
something I do frequently is after a roll, if I have a weapon that does a piercing attack after a roll, I use that in combination with my other piercing attacks.
Oh, so
And
fucking annoying when people do that.
Well, I don't like PvP, so I'm just saying I'm talking about PvE. But yeah, the different one thing that I had with the katanas was that a jump R1 is a lot faster on the trigger than a normal R1. It's like half the delay, and so I was using that to time certain enemies, to time just staggers, and like that sort of nuance to an attack is crucial for at least for my enjoyment of Dark Souls and Elden Ring. And I think it's also really important if you're maximizing the use of your weapon. So if you allow the players to just choose what the attacks they like the best, like maybe they like the overhead swing that flattens people, let's do that with a big
Mhm.
sword. It's fine. And some big swords don't do that, and it's like, why not? Well, because they don't. because the game doesn't allow you to do it. It's silly.
It's a strange experience playing through this game. It's just so bloated, and yeah, like there's entire like these quest lines are not possible to follow.
Yeah.
Like
No, they're really not.
the fucking Shabriri grapes storyline, like she just teleports around everywhere and doesn't say where she's going, and no one says where she is now, and you just got to find her over and over again, and like how you just
And then
you
shit
just
like
have
this will
to
happen
read it
where
online.
you'll start an NPC's quest and then you won't figure out where they went, and then you'll go off and like fight bosses, and those NPCs were meant to be like summoned in that boss fight, and then they would give you a hint after that boss fight if you summoned them, but then you don't even get that because you already beat the boss, so you then just have to fucking look it up every time.
There's a couple of quests that don't suffer from that. Specifically the one with the Wolfman. I thought that one was very intuitive. I mean, there was that one occasion where you tried to leave the tower and there's like a huge magical barrier, and you need to go all the way back up to the top of the tower so that Rani tells you, oh, something that you already heard before, and now you can leave the tower. But apart from that, I thought that particular quest was very intuitive. But I also got lucky that I saw the prompt that you get when you sit down by the bonfire in one particular occasion. I got lucky.
What a place to
Was a
hide
bubble.
that.
It's so
I hope
silly.
you've been checking the entire bonfire menu every time you sit down in case there's a surprise person to talk to that you can't see.
And I didn't do that. And so basically I missed all of the dialogues for your maiden. Like the maiden, she like, I think every time you enter a new area, she has a new dialogue. And I only saw that like very late in the game. Like, and she starts being like, oh, we've been traveling together for so long. And I'm like, no, we haven't. I barely know you. We never talk.
And they
And it's
could have
just
had like some kind of pop-up, or just like even if
normal
they don't want to
cutscene.
have her just have a cutscene automatically and surprise you with it the way she does the first time, they could at least have like some kind of a highlight or way of calling attention to the fact that the option's suddenly there now. Because what they do is they hide it near the bottom of a list of like 10 options, and it's like already this big bloated thing to keep track of. Like, how do you tell ever? I don't.
Yep.
Like
A
I was
single
lucky enough to
pop-up.
notice it like once, and then from there was like, oh, she probably has new dialogue every zone you enter, and would like check periodically. But with Rani, it's like out of nowhere. Like it's just she just like maybe teleported somewhere or something, and then you're supposed to somehow intuit that you don't try to find where she went, but instead talk to the local bonfire, and then the bonfire is how you talk to her, and like it's increasingly hard to tell, like, is the doll a different consciousness or the same person, or like you don't know the logistics of the doll itself, so you don't know what it means to have the doll, so it's surprising when the doll like is maybe a walkie-talkie for her.
What
Like,
is
I guess.
consciousness? Yeah. I think that they know their audience, and they know their audience is okay with not getting everything on their first playthrough, because that's the experience of Dark Souls. But and what really surprises me is that what you're not getting is just, most of the time, is just dialogue. And I really, that wasn't the case. At least in Dark Souls 1, that was definitely not the case. If you do quests, you get events, you get things related to the characters. I'm trying to think if you have like even bosses, because I never beat every boss in Dark Souls 1. I didn't do all the quests. You get like unique bosses, right? For some of the quests in Dark Souls 1.
In Dark Souls 1?
I think almost every boss in Dark Souls 1 was unique. There's only a couple that are reused, and even still, they're usually
Yeah, I just don't know if
got
any
a twist to
quests
them.
led to bosses in Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
There's the main sort of storyline that requires you to beat Spider Lady first, and other things that I don't recall. And that one has a unique boss that I didn't beat. You're not required to beat to get to the end of the game. And I was trying to think if the magician also has a boss related to his story, to his side quest, but I don't. Because I also didn't do that side quest. It's just what I mean to say is that Dark Souls has always been a game where you just miss stuff and miss dialogue and miss things and secrets. And
Like the end of the Solaire quest line, yeah.
Things were just more
yeah.
findable when the game was smaller. When we didn't have
Yeah.
like irony of the lakes being the size of an entire Dark Souls game, and you're like, find this character 7 times in order to get out of this chapter of the story. It gets really odd. Like the one-armed lady shows up in up in the windmills area, hiding behind a windmill.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
30 hours after I'd ever been there. Like it's bizarre, and you need to find her in every possible location in order to get the ability to like undo getting infected by the other character that shows up everywhere in Irony of the Lakes, because that person like tricks you into being only in one ending in a way that all the other things you unlock in the game don't do, because there is like clear signposting throughout the game of being like, doing this has unlocked another ending. You probably can like pick it or something at the end. Anyway, see you later when you like win. Hope you pick me. Like it happens like 4 times, but suddenly one of them is like, no, this is the only one, and that's like way stranger. But you can fix it by having specifically found the other 2 secret character.
Well, you need to find the secret boss arena first, and then the 2 secret. Oh no, the other way around. Did you want to do it, Keith?
Yes.
Oh, that's spoiler sort of. Oh, yeah, well, I
But
guess.
I don't remember how anymore.
Yeah,
It's really hard to remember what the through line was. Like, did I have to beat Mog for? Was that an important thing I needed to do something else?
Oh, and then
was
they
it
make...
connected? It's actually genuinely hard to say how any of the zones and storylines are connected, and the secret areas that lead to big super mega fights. You're like, which one of those were like super integral to something else, and which ones were like a weird dead end that never gets mentioned again? It's without narrative context for a lot of the stuff. You're like, yeah, what is happening? Where am I?
Yeah.
How did I get here?
And even like they make such big deals about certain characters, about this this Michaela person, and then there's this whatever, I don't remember the names, but they are not introduced in the storytelling. The game does not tell us about them at all. It's the experience of arriving at somebody's house uninvited and obviously fighting them to the death, but arriving at somebody's house uninvited, and they just, as they fight you, they just talk about their family, which in isolation you're just sort of like, okay, fair enough, you're just some random person, you have a family that I do not know. But no, it's not. That's not what we're doing. We're playing a video game.
The frequency at which you kill some dude you barely understand the existence of, and then they name drop some person that I failed you, Ocelot, and you're like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Do I need to find them now? Did I kill them already? I don't know. Every character, 7 characters have almost the same name, and also they lie about what their names are, and also they have 3 names.
I have made no attempt whatsoever to try to piece together the plot, and I think my experience was enhanced greatly by doing that.
It took me...
the characters that lie about their names and also almost have the same names as each other. It's so much.
Mm-hmm. And they lie about their names with names very similar to their real names. It's like me being, I'm actually Karanal Arpaja. That's my name. I've been lying to you.
What the
I'm a different person. But it took me a while for me to just sort of like embrace exactly how I felt about the story of Elden Ring. And my first impression when I started embracing it was these people are just talking about some folks that we don't interact with and how they're related to each other, whether they married each other, whether they were siblings, whether they were sons and daughters and fathers and cousins. And that's like the vast majority of the storytelling is spent talking about this. And you see that in the crones, you see that in the characters. They just talk about, oh, I'm related to this person, or this person is related to that other person, and they never talk about their actions or their significance in the world. And I feel like that would be a lot more interesting, because if you look at Dark Souls 1, there's a lot of things like Ogwyn, the Lord of Light, and like this is very vague, obviously, but it's a theme throughout the game, light and all that, and and the Age of Fire and all that, and you start to piece things together. You get like this sense of at least what people believed in this world, or what they were fighting for or are fighting for. In Dark Souls, sorry, in Elden Ring, I think the best case of that happening is the death faction. But even then, it's so vague, because they literally talk about death, and I think lore wise, it's a very important faction. But everything else is just vague as hell. There's the giants that it's not like particular spoilers or anything, but like there's all these different factions that are really, really important to the lore, but you just don't get any information from them from the storytelling. It's all in the items. And that sucks, because you read the items, they also don't say anything. It's just you need to connect these together. You need to piece together the two items from two different parts of the game. It's all about the wiki, and it's all about Vatividia videos, really, which themselves are wiki, but still.
He's rubbing his hands together because he was running out of stuff to do for a long time there.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing like art contests and things because he has to like justify his channel when there's not much Souls content coming out. And the most recently made game was like just a relatively straightforward story that just told you what was happening.
His art videos were the best videos that he has on his channel.
I didn't watch him.
I've never watched any Vati video.
I watch it. I've watched a bunch, but I really like the art videos because it's fun though. Like imagining these, like you're familiar with the world.
What a nerd would say.
You got him.
I like it. I like imagining what would this place look like, and then people thinking about all the lore implications and all that.
As far as I know, Dark Souls 1 and Elden Ring have the exact same plot. I don't know what any of them are.
There's a big serpent with teeth in Dark Souls 1. I think I
fought two of them, and one of them killed itself. I technically only fought one of them.
Those are the Hydras. You're thinking...
Isn't a Hydra just a serpent with teeth, but there's a lot of heads instead of one?
He's trying to mention Framped and Cath.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't even know what those names mean.
Those are the giant serpent that comes out of Firelink Shrine in the floor, and you can sell items to him. Got giant teeth.
Oh,
He's got big old giant weird teeth.
The little
and
like
never
testicle looking guy. Yeah.
Yes. I forgot about that, actually.
Yeah, you have to meet that character because
that's how you get to the end of the game.
Yeah, he swallows you and takes you to the end of the game and spits you out in the place where you put the Lord Vessel.
Oh right, yeah. Both ends of him are heads. That's weird.
You say that you can sell items to him, but it's actually feed items to him, and then he makes this sound. And it was just like, why didn't you make it different? Why did you have the voice actor make the sound? Now I'm curious how the Japanese voice actor does it.
Probably just the same voice. I don't think it's translated to English.
I mean,
no. The sound is the sound is definitely the English voice actor.
I would tell.
It's very obviously a voice of a person rather than somebody making.
I mean, that's what was goofy to me about how when you meet Blythe, it's because of his howling, and his howling is clearly just like a Welsh dude howling, and not like a giant wolf man. It's very funny.
But that was good because it was like more or less convincing.
No,
much better convincing than the Framped has.
I found the howling really funny and awkward. Like it's so clearly just a human going like, oh.
I thought like he'd fooled me for like a little bit, but then I was like, no, that's a person. Why is that wolf sound like a person? That was my reaction. I was like, why do wolves sound like people? Why didn't they get like actual wolves to howl?
Hey, maybe in real life,
very hard
wolves would
to
sound
bring into a studio.
Yeah, the wolves are very misbehaved in the studio.
Plus, they're not union.
Yeah.
That's
Fair.
pretty dangerous. You don't want to get sued. You got to be careful about
Yeah.
that.
When the wolves go on
Only-
strike.
When wolves strike, it's usually for a kill.
I mean, they fall from the ceiling in that game,
That's never explained, is it?
or from the sky. They're using the tornadoes that your horse uses.
Yeah, they're just
What?
the same as torrent. Yeah.
No
Really funny.
way.
Yeah,
Really?
it's
But
just
there's
really
no tornadoes though.
No, torrent.
they're everywhere.
Your horse.
yeah. The thing that
Yeah,
the
your
things that
horse
torrent
does
uses
it.
to jump.
Yeah, but those tornadoes are the horse elevators, as I call them. They're always static. They're always in the same place.
Yes, and they're
Yeah,
when they
and
so
that's
they
where the
jump
wolves
on
are.
them and fall down
Where the
onto
wild
you.
wolves are.
It's just them falling from the werewolf or from the tornado whirlwind.
But
That's
those
all
are
it is.
special wolf elevators, right? They're not.
I
No,
don't-
not the
no. So the tornadoes aren't the wolves take the same tornadoes that torrent takes. They just land in locations where you're at.
Oh, I see. I never
They're
noticed.
just falling for a long time. They're just like woo.
Yeah, I see.
That's it.
And they make that swoosh swoosh because that's what Torrent does as well when he falls. Yeah, makes sense.
We've solved
What
it.
doesn't make sense is the inverted statue. Gotcha. And Andrew didn't like it. Didn't like it inside. There was a spellcaster. Very bad times.
Oh, is that the level with the fucking guy that you have to sneak up on?
Yeah,
A little.
I had a very easy time with him. I got extremely lucky because they didn't teleport. I just went up and wailed on him, and that was it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mine didn't.
No, yours teleported.
Mine had-
Andrew.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mine teleported. Mine didn't
Mhm.
just stay put. Mine teleported a lot, and mine also had perfect accuracy, 100% hit rate, which I thought was really impressive. Not only that, but he can cast faster than I can cast back at him, which I thought was really good. Just all around good guy. Fun times.
yeah, I remember that level being kind of neat, but the fucking getting spellcasts at you while you're trying to walk on beams and stuff, or trying to deal with the level in general, was just kind of a lot. And like that one guy was just like fucking vanishing endlessly. And a
Kinda neat,
bit of a
but
run back if you die too.
No, you're thinking of the first time you go through the tower.
Yeah.
When
You're
you
there the
start the
second
tower.
time too.
No, that's fast. I think.
It's also a somewhat strange, like, here's the tower. Okay, now play it upside down in a slightly different way, but not that super. Oh wait, no. Oh god, I just remembered all the hands.
There were a
The
lot
With
of
hands,
even
yeah.
and even more
Yeah,
long
it's
range
A lot of
spellcasting.
hands.
but it was much shorter though. It was a much shorter
Yeah.
level.
I think I died way more though. But it's one of those games. It's one of those zones where it's like you just walk in and it's just there because you came in off of a field, and then you finish and it's like here's a bridge. Go somewhere else now. Like it's just it feels weird how unconnected these areas are to anything else in the game. That's just like another example of that. It just feels kind of strange, like a weird non sequitur.
First
Here's
time
the
I went through
inverted
the
thing.
tower, you get to the top and there were a bunch of chandeliers. And I was like, I know video games. So I navigated my way up there and then dropped onto one of the chandeliers. And I was like, huh.
Mhm.
I expected something to happen. And then I attacked one of the chandeliers to try and make it drop and kill enemies. And that didn't happen either. And I was pissed. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what the fuck? This flies in the face of all the vocabulary of video games. But
Yeah, they're kind of
then
just
you
go
they
in
kind of
with the
just are
inverted
chandeliers
statue.
you can be on.
yeah.
It's not the only time
And
it
then,
happens either.
When it goes inverted, that's when you actually do land on the chandeliers and use that to navigate. And I'm like, this is good. This made me happy.
One time that happened to me was there's this one big door in the capital, and throughout the
Uh-huh.
game, there, especially in the capital, there's a lot of doors that just do not open. They're not real doors. There's just
Yeah.
they're like a wall, but they look like a door. And there's this one big door that I actually went up to and tried opening, and it said it's not open at this time or whatever. And I figured, oh, it's gonna open with a what's the word? Like a lever, right? I figured because it's a big door, it's special. And later on in the game, specifically later on in the capital exploration, there's a moment where you're like, okay, you're supposed to go that way, and I could not find the way there for the longest time. I had to look it up, and guess what? It was that big door, and there's no the door doesn't open with a lever. It just starts open. It just all of a sudden it's openable after you do a certain thing in the capital, and I had to look it up, and it's such a fundamental exploration of the game. And the capital is enormous. You're never going to try one random door. Certainly not a door that you wrote off. Like, I didn't even remember there was a door there at that time.
I will never know how much I
looked
missed
more
from the
enormous.
capital.
Yeah.
You will know, though, that whatever you missed, the reward was always either a spell you didn't want to use or upgrade
No.
materials.
I missed out on the storyline of the guy who teaches me the spells for the build I was in.
Oh, that would, yes. But it's not in the
I just
capital,
found
right?
his corpse one day and I'm like, oh, I guess I did this wrong. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal.
You did
Just
more of
maybe
his
the
story
most,
than I did.
just might be the most important part of the entire game mechanically.
Yeah,
I guess
wonder,
I'll go
though.
die now.
Well, you have been dying a lot.
I am good at dying.
Got him. Called
But
out.
spells
L
are
plus ratio.
I have mastered
Could always
dying.
just wait. No, yeah, you can't do that. Never
you
mind.
could wait.
No, I was thinking like technically technically what you can do for any enemy that I think you could do that. I don't know, I didn't try it, but I think because if you can kill any enemy in the game and they can come back. You just have
Almost any
to
enemy.
almost any enemy. Pretty much almost any enemy you can kill and they will come back as long as you pay penance. And I think you can like kill people, do other stuff, and then like resurrect.
Oh, you're
them
talking about
later.
NPCs. You're talking about characters.
NPCs.
Right?
Yeah, like characters. Yeah, like characters you can just kill, and then there's like a shrine you can go with the turtle. Yeah, the turtle priest. You can go to the turtle priest.
Yeah.
And there's a person there, and it's like, if you pay a thing, you can get people back. And I think you can do that if you like kill them, go and do a quest that they would otherwise die for, and then resurrect them. And I think they'll come back. Then you just finish their quest.
But at that point, you're just using Wikipedia to solve the quest, at which point you might as well have...
That's
like,
true.
You wouldn't have a problem to
Yeah.
begin with because you're just reading online how to do the whole thing.
Yeah, you wouldn't get him killed in the first place. Because
Not if you always
Notice.
kill every NPC you meet.
4 o'clock here for me,
don't
so I'm
do
gonna
that.
bounce. I got a hard
Oh,
stop here.
sorry.
All right,
No,
good
it's
night and whatnot.
Yeah. You all keep going.
Bye.
Y'all don't need me. Y'all have
Ragging
podcasted
on
without me
Elden Ring.
before a couple of times.
No, we can't go on without you.
Oh,
It's impossible.
There's a song about
that's
that.
good. I wanted to hear that.
I
bye.
wanted to know that I was the load-bearing part
Bye.
of this podcast.
All right.
Tell us,
See you
Keith.
all.
Bye.
Now that I know that
Tell us,
everybody's
people.
devastated that I'm gone, then I can leave in peace.
Dang.
So how did you find
There
Keith?
is-
How did you find the in Elden Ring specifically? Just to center the conversation back, how did you find well, actually, Andrew, have you finished the game? Can we go into super spoiler territory?
Yeah, I'm done. I've been done for like a while now. Been done for like almost a month.
How did you find the Azura's Wrath boss fight, Keith?
It looked weirdly low quality in some parts. Like, he does like a weird rift that looks like it's not loading in correctly.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, I know what you're talking
He
about.
just does a giant like level spanning rift over and over again. Like, and it looks really bad. It just looks really strange every time he does it. It's just odd. I don't know. God, I'm trying to remember that this boss fight. It's been like 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Blah. Let's bring up the recording. My most recent recording. Watch me get my ass beat.
I asked this because people in my chat were like, "Oh, this is the funnest, this most fun boss in the game. Like, this is the best one. It's more fun." And actually, I enjoyed it quite a lot. I had a fun. I mean, not with the second phase. The second phase, whatever. It was not fun. It was just about figuring out how to beat it and beat it. That was, and not in the fun way. But the first phase was all about the dodges. It was all about learning the timing of the dodges.
This is the stompy guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. At the point I beat Melania, I beat Malekith. It's like you hit a point where you're just tired at some point, you know?
Yeah.
There's another fucking multi-stage boss fight right after them, and it's like, it's me, the guy we've been hyping up all game long, and it's like, oh fuck, he's not gonna be easy. It's the lion guy that's been on every fucking thing I've seen. And then I put on my ultra armor, and I'm like, nope, still taking a buttload of damage. I'm trying to watch this fight a little bit right now. There's definitely a thing where like every enemy is so relentlessly long range at this point that you can never dodge back to get even an inch of space. They're always on you forever, to the point where I'm not even sure how one even heals during most boss fights. There's like certain things that feel like telegraphed patterns, but then other stuff he just will like really abruptly do something, or like there's like a secondary explosion of some kind. I don't know. I feel like I was just worn down at this point. I don't have much to say about this fight. I fought him for a bit. I'm like, all right, that's him. And then I started summoning because I'm like, let's get this over with. Especially when I'm realizing like this guy obviously has a phase 2, and I'm not getting through 2 phases of this shit alone. There's no fucking way.
For me, the first phase really required me to be like almost perfect, and more, like, you know, only healing 3 or 4 times at most in the first phase. Otherwise, the second phase, because you know, it's the nature of the second phase. You can't practice it as much, so you're never going to be as good at the second one. And it's like a different character. It's so dumb because it's not actually a transformation. It's a different character. Spoiler. Because it doesn't play. There's none of the same moves. He looks drastically different, and it's just like it's
he just does a whole new separate thing. So you just have to beat 2 bosses back to back.
Yeah. It's the same.
And this has been happening for a while too. Like in Dark Souls 3, there was the Scythe lady that just is 3 consecutive boss fights. Like. I think that's the one where I think that's the one where like in phase 2 she summons a second person, and then in phase 3 you fight her alone, but she's like ultra now or something.
Yes.
And like those were big deal, exhausting, memorable fights, but there'd usually be like the one like in the DLC, and that'd be like most of it. Like like I think that one also had like a guy with a wolf as a boss fight, and he was like not nearly as big of a deal. Like there was like kind of a sense of pacing, and there was like here's the giant fuck you insane fight, but it's like one of like 3 in the game, or the one in the DLC, or so on. And this game was just like almost like an endless series of boss fights that were along those lines, and often like I feel like my character's not getting faster each sequel, but all the enemies are. Like they all get, every sequel, all the weapons, all the enemies get 20% faster and 20% longer range, and all their combos gain 2 more hits, and you're like, I don't get it. I don't get when I'm allowed to do anything, basically. And it just gets so tiring. And you're like, can I go back to Fume Knight? Fume Knight made some sense to me, and I fucking was stuck on Fume Knight for days, but like it was comprehensible as a fight. And then more and more I can't tell what's happening, and like I get really mad fighting bosses like Mog and realizing that they don't have combos. They just have attacks they can string together in whatever order they feel like that resemble combos, but if you pay attention to what they're doing, as far as I can tell, each time they fight they're doing a different string of hits. Like there isn't a flow to it, and so you can't be like, okay, he's gonna do this, then this, and this, and then there's the opening, or I dodge left, then right, then forward, or whatever. Like there isn't like a pattern. And the same was, I think the
Yeah,
same was
most-
the true for like Malekith's like robed form. Like it was just a bunch of different swipey knife hits, and
Who's
followed by Malekith is the werewolf daddy.
Oh, Garank. Right.
Yeah,
yes.
no, Garank is not Malekith. Garank dies when you
sure?
finish his quest.
I'm pretty sure Garank is Malekith.
I don't think
was
Garank and
commenting-
Malekith are the same person. I think Garank literally dies at the end of his storyline or something.
They're the same like species anyway. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Malekith. Yeah.
Because they're both from the cult of whatever the fuck is happening in that chapter, which is visually intriguing, but once
Never
again, it's
developed
like
on.
it's like the 12th location that has an entire theme and mythology to it, maybe that's half suggested, and you can't quite tell what's happening. That one might be one of the most explicit ones, because it's like these
Yes.
people are clearly trying to turn into like werewolf monsters, and it's like it's not going great for them. There's not a lot of Malekiths coming out of that thing. A lot of them are having a real bad time and just turning into malformed nightmare people. But the I don't.
You're
And
totally
and
right about.
also
Oh, sorry, go
Malekith and Melania, just a little more tuning to be sane would be incredibly fun boss fights. They're really cool. But
Yes.
one, the two-phase nature of Malekith is just like, oh, fuck off. And to some extent, the two-phase nature of Melania. I want Malekith phase 2 and
yeah.
Melania phase 1 as boss fights with just like a little
Yes.
bit more sanity. And in Melania's case, a lot of it is she has one fuck you combo that's just so insane, but also
Yes.
every time she hits you, she takes out 60% of your health with like any hit, basically. And like if she was just a little more reasonable in damage, like phase 1 of Melania is fun. Like she actually is
Except for
relatively
that one
telegraphed and has patterns, and she's like it's a fun fight. And fucking Malekith phase 2 was so absurd and hype in a
It's
fun
cool
way,
looking.
in a
Yeah.
way cooler way than Melania phase 2 is, which is just irritating. I hate
Yes.
Melania phase 2 because you can't see anything.
Mhm.
You just like I'm trying to remember even what it's like because it's been like a month or
It's
something.
a big
but like,
flower, and then
she-
there's a lot of
yeah, she hits you with the
clones
fuck you
and
nuke flower attack that, with no warning of what it's going to be. So the first time you play it, you're just going to die, because even if you dodge it correctly, because getting hit by it's a one-hit kill, but if you don't dodge it correctly, because it's it's like, oh, she's going to dash at you. You can be ready for that to happen and dodge. But she explodes into a flower of like infinite damage and rot, and you have to just know to get out of that in time, because if you're not ready for it to happen, there's no way you're reacting in time, so you'll probably just die to that flower. But even then, like the whole time she's fighting, she has that shit where she's covered in like a bunch of like ghostly tendrils and clothing and limbs or something. Like it's hard to even tell what you're looking at. But it leads to like all this, it really obscures all of our movements, so you can't tell what's happening very well because of how over designed and messy she is at that point. And then she starts like, she'll do stuff like fly up in the air, and you're like, okay, I gotta watch her and see what's gonna happen. I gotta look really carefully because she's gonna jump at me again with the flower thing. And then actually what she does is she summons a bunch of enemies off camera that you can't
that's
see because
impossible.
you're looking up at her, and then you grass beat by those, and you're
You
like,
get killed.
I hate this. I hate this, and I hate that the phase 1 is almost incredible, but it's so
Yes.
overtuned, and then has a horrible phase 2 after it that you're just being tortured
true.
at this point. Like, I hit a point with this game where I can't give boss fights like a fair shake and be like fair with them about how hard they are or aren't and stuff, and be like, oh man, how good is this individual fight? Because it's all in the context of this game that is just so grueling and endless, and like it would have done better with fewer boss fights that had more time spent on them. I think at this point we hit the divide between me and other Souls fans about what we even like about these games, because I've never liked Souls games for being hard. I've seen the difficulty as being a byproduct of why they're good. Like, they're good because of how they demand your attention and your experimentation and like reflexes, and like doing boss fights where you have to learn the fight and deal with them and so on, and like actually like improve and deal and like pay attention to tells and so on. But more and more, I'm not sure how much these boss fights are reasonably beaten that way. And more, I think the majority of people playing these games at this point are using all of the strategies that people will tell me are cheesing it or whatever. But I think like like if you look at if you look at online conversations about this game, they're almost universally talking about the mimic tier and stuff like that, and like as like one of the things that they do all the time, because like, yeah, how do you not so like how do you not end up wanting to use the mimic tier like all the time? Because it's not just that it's like an incredibly powerful summon, but it feels like your only option in a lot of fights where the game is just incredibly overbearing, and like you have all these endless combos just so you can try to get one opening to get a couple hits in, and then like that barely works, and then in a boss like Melania, they're like, ha ha ha, you, even though you blocked my attacks, I healed back all the damage you did with that one opening you found, fuck you. And it's just I'm tired. You just get tired at some point.
I think like you're saying that you didn't give the difficulty of the bosses a fair shake. I don't think you missed anything. For one, because the difficulty isn't the point, in your opinion and in my opinion. But also, as long as you, as long as you got to the you got to the point where you could recognize how cool a boss is, and that's not something that happens the first time you see a boss. I think, like, I'm trying to think of any cool boss that I beat on my first try that I later recognized as cool. Well, Mog is an interesting example. No, actually, Mog is not. Not a very
Fuck
good
you,
example. But
Mog.
what I'm saying is, you need to have seen a boss a few times already and be struggling with it in a certain kind of way to be able to recognize, oh, this fight is actually really cool. And there's like the lake dragon at the beginning of the game. When I saw some of its dragon animations, I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And I think that's probably one of the best dragons in the game, is the original one, because the fire breathing is not over the top. Later dragons are just bollocks. It's just lightning coming out of its fingernails, and I don't understand. But I mean, they're dragons. You fight them; it's not a problem. But in terms of cool, the first dragon in the game is the coolest. Just because it's understandable, and you see all the roars and all that, it's just like, oh, that's badass, that's cool. At least
it's really a bummer how often the game hits you with a cool surprise and then is like, now I'm gonna make it not surprising by happening all the time, and you're like, oh cool, it's my 7th fight where a dragon suddenly shows up in a place, and frankly you by the time after like the second one, you literally see the clues about how it's going to happen. Like, I'd be shocked if anyone gets to the ice lake and it's like, oh man, is there going to be a dragon? Like, or like doesn't think that. Like how do you not expect the dragon at that point? It's like, it's clearly a dragon arena. Like, even the game overstays its welcome so hard that even surprises, like, oh, it's like they become so overused that you just see them all coming. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a weird suspicious opening with no enemies in it, and it's a new zone. I haven't fought one in this zone yet. It's going to be the dragon of this zone. Okay. Like, that's disappointing. That's one of the things I complimented this game about early on so hard was how surprising it was, like being in the first zone and encountering the dragon that's in that lake, and then finding like the death bird and so on. And little do you know, you're gonna fight 12 of each of those, and here's another fucking flame worm again, and you're like, I'm so tired now.
Yes.
Like, this game could have been cool if it was like, not, well, first of all, just not an open world in many cases. Like, these, like, because a surprise boss fight has happened before in Souls games, and those ones are good examples of them, but then they're just mechanically identically use the same thing again, but they get increasingly bullshit AoEs or status effects or the sword that they swing sometimes, and so it's just not. They
do swing a sword.
Stop just adding modifiers to the same thing over and over again. Just give me where's the abridged version of this game?
And then the thing is, like, they reuse so many things, and they still have bosses with multiple stages. They could just have, like, they have Mog show up twice in the game. They could have the one time you fight the first stage, the other time you fight the second stage, because the second stage looks really cool. He's having the wings and all the blood all right. That's really awesome. It's like, I saw that, I was like, man, this is really cool. But I was having trouble because I mean that second phase is quite difficult. So I couldn't really appreciate the whole of the boss. But if there was a whole boss just on the second stage, that would have been just as difficult. No, it would have been more difficult than as it is right now, if you didn't change anything else. But it would have been a lot cooler. It would be a lot better, because you would have seen him in his 2 forms. It wouldn't have felt repetitive. I mean, you Keith, you actually got to fight him in the wrong order, but still, my point is, Melania doesn't need a second phase. The Cleric Beast doesn't need a first phase. and the last boss that you fought, the dragon person. Is it dragon person? Yeah, whatever. I don't remember the names. Should have been two different bosses because they are two different bosses. Because you can't engage with the second one because you're already stressed from the first one. You can't practice it properly. It's just like it's such a disadvantage to the second boss. Always a disadvantage.
The open world also just starts to feel really stupid when you have like Mog, the fuckery man of fuck you, nightmare boss, and then there's also like shitty Mog hiding in a crypt somewhere, and like I fought shitty Mog afterwards.
Yes.
It's like he's not like the preemptive idea of a crazy boss that's gonna come later. He's just a weird shitty echo of a boss I already beat. And I'm like, what was the point of that guy? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. But the thing is, think about you were talking about the DLCs for Dark Souls 2, but just think about DLCs for Dark Souls 3. Think about Dark Souls 3 basic, like after you get teleported or transported by the gargoyles into the I forget the name of the place. The place with the people burning trees and like the pitchfork pointy-handed little gremlins. The place that ends with the testicle tree boss fight. You know the one? I forget the names. I'm sorry.
You're talking about the one of the starting zones of Dark Souls 3.
Yes.
It's like the longest zone of that entire game, I think.
It's pretty long. Yeah, I'm talking about it because it is a good example. Now think about that area and how interconnected. Like there's multiple paths. It connects multiple places, and like there's different challenges and all that. Think about how it was to experience it the first time around. Never mind going at it the second time around, because that's a different sort of experience. But the first time around, like you have it's a gauntlet getting to the whole through the whole thing, and like learning the boss run at the end, just being like, okay, I'm gonna go into this boss. It's the first time, and you know what's behind you. You know what you're gonna need to do to if you fail at the boss. But like, there's this huge gauntlet, and then the boss is a thing that is nowhere in comparison to in terms of difficulty to basically anything that Elden Ring has to offer. And the reason why it isn't is because it's a boss that is reasonably meant to be beaten on the first try. It doesn't mean that a lot of people will do it, but it is possible to beat that boss in the first try. And in fact, a lot of the Dark Souls 3 bosses are like that. And the reason why is and that's something that doesn't necessarily happen in Dark Souls 1 and 2, but Dark Souls 3 is like that. And I feel that it is like that because the gauntlet behind it is so grueling and so difficult. It's not, overly difficult, but it is a challenge. It's a much more of a challenge than anything that Elden Ring has to throw at you. And I don't know why they like I know why they do it in the open world, why it's a lot easier to avoid enemies because you just run past them, or mob control them, or rather, what's the word? Crowd control them if you want to just attack one at a time or something like that. But in a castle, things change a little bit in Elden Ring, but they still made the castles feel much more wide open and much less. There's no Sense Fortress, is what I'm saying, in Elden Ring. And Sense Fortress
just a nice, tight, like damage gauntlet or a challenge gauntlet with a clear through line and pacing set up.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely castles, and those are definitely like the highlights of the game, but like they're just fundamentally different.
They're not as good. Like, they're good. I had fun, but they're not as good.
There's kind of like a sameness to the game where there just isn't as much identity throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's hard to put your finger on exactly, but like there just isn't like it's kind of just like this endless amount of content without necessarily having clear like I don't know how to put this.
It's all down to the scale. Remember how in Anor Londo you have this one little ramp with this one particular archer that shoots you. It's the famous one, right? Everybody knows that one. but it's not the only place in the game that you remember a specific piece of geometry of the level and a specific enemy. In Dark Souls 3, for example, in that level that I was referring to, there's this area when you arrive next to that cage person that actually is friendly and you killed them. Um, there's this like part of the cliff. There's this part of the cliff where the little gremlins are throwing knives at you, and it's like obviously designed to be difficult to avoid the knives because you are also fighting little gremlins next to you. And right next to that area, there's the gremlin that has like a huge two-handed sword that falls from the ceiling. That stuff is memorable, and it's
Yeah.
memorable because they beat you the first time and you die there, and you learn how to avoid that. And in
Like
Dark
the
Souls,
layout, and yeah, like at Orlando, the layout of that area is burned into the memories of people that have played that level. But like at least most of it, aside from maybe the part in when you're actually inside the castle where it's harder to even keep track of what you're doing. But the like everyone remembers climbing the weird was it a flying buttress or whatever the fuck
that's the one, yeah,
to climb up to the top, and then you go through the supports above this massive cathedral, and you're carefully trying not to fall as these like ninjas are coming at you, and then later on you get to the bottom of that cathedral, and that's how you get to the painted world, and like there's the weird trick staircase in the middle of Anor Londo, and the front gate is like this weird series of gates where it's like there's these giant armored dudes, and the only way in is to take this path to the right where you have to walk across this incredibly treacherous piece of roof where super archers are trying to take you out, and like there's like a lot of that's like gets seared into your mind because of how it's all laid out, and the
it's all
sort of
down to
unique
level.
challenges you're facing that weren't like other parts of the game and so on. And having this infinite expanse of game in Elden Ring kind of like loses a lot of that memorability, and like I'm not saying that I could right now like draw a map of all of Dark Souls 3 or whatever. It's like I haven't played it for a while, but like when you just did a thing, there was an increased chance that you'd be able to like actually like in detail recount what the thing is that you went through and everything and what it was all like, and like that seems less likely in Elden Ring for most of the game, including many of the more linear-ish like and more like designed castle areas. Like you might be able to in detail recount what like the inverted tower was like, but like a lot of the actual castles, it's like you might have trouble recounting where you are while you're in it.
Yeah. And I think, and the reason for that is because the challenge stops being as much in Elden Ring, I should say. It stops being as much about the level, and it's really focused on the enemies that you're facing. You're going up a staircase in Demon Souls, like that area in that first castle that reminds us of Demon Souls, and I say us because it reminded you as well as me, even though I'd never played Demon Souls. You go up that staircase, and there's that dude blowing the horn, and like the first time around, I was like, "Holy crap! This is gonna be like a freaking full-on level of people. Like this is gonna have consequences if I let him blow the horn," because that's how From Software does. But no, it's just a linear path throughout the castle where you kill enemies after enemies, and there's never a situation where you need to be aware of a conjunction of enemies or how this enemy is very dangerous in this one place and not dangerous in another, or like even the barrels are pointless and not a danger, and it's the closest the Elden Ring gets to having a level being the enemy, which is how Dark Souls has always worked. And it's just, and later on it gets more and more. Remember that castle later in the snow area with the commander boss at the end. That castle was just nothing. It felt like an MMO level where guess what? There's 2 cats now. Guess what? There's eagles, which might just fuck off right up off
I hate them
side
so
of the sun.
much.
And it's just like it's nothing. It's just enemies after enemies. It feels like an MMO. It's not designed. I don't know. They might have ran out of time, but even in Dark Souls 3, in the places that you can tell they ran out of time in the design, even those feel designed. I'm thinking of the I don't remember the name of the area, but there's that swamp area next to that big city with the little centipede hairy people, and that place is starting there. The game is like really barren. It's the level design is very different, but it's still like
Every
like
Souls
enemy
game has the
placement.
equivalent of Dragon Butt Land.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's just a
Yeah.
bunch of dragon butts standing in lava. Go through it, I guess. The Demon Ruins are so baffling. Just a nothing zone.
It's unbelievable. And the ones that come after are not particularly better either. It's just the same enemy repeated, apart from the vacuum cleaners, which themselves are baffling. Or
The vacuum cleaners, like the teeth
No.
blenders.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's just like they look like blenders and they're full of teeth, and they probably and there's a significant chance that they'll kill Ziegmeyer.
Yeah.
It is hard to make him survive that scene, and he just jumps into a hole full of lava and teeth blenders, and you're like, "Are you sure this was important? Are you sure this is what you needed to do today?" He's like on a mission to jump in that hole, and you're like, "I don't know if that's." You just go somewhere else. I can't remember the reason why he jumps in it, but it's really hard to understand why he's doing it in that moment, from what I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Most of his motivation is just like, I need to prove myself.
By jumping in another death hole. Look at me go.
Yeah,
It doesn't work.
So what did you feel, Andrew, about Elden Ring in comparison to Dark Souls games?
I'm only ever in it for the bosses. So I don't think Elden Ring was very good.
Hmm.
The boss is just it's fine. I don't know. Elden Ring is just a game that, much like anything, if you make it too big, it like I keep saying, it comes at a cost, and the cost for me just was too much. I had no interest in the overarching world. I'm not the target for that. I don't care. I especially don't care because it's extra effort to find out what's going on, and I have no interest in doing that. Because I can't do that with RPGs. I struggle a lot to try to communicate with people because it's not worth the time. It's usually just people going and mammering on about something that I'm not going to be usually swayed by. So someone will just say something and it's like, okay, that's fine. I'm like, if someone was like, please don't kill this boss, it's my best friend, I'm still gonna kill it. Like, I don't care. The whole point is just to fight the bosses for me. Um, which is like, I don't know why something like Hollow Knight is much better for me. Hollow Knight
Did you
is
just go?
yeah, I just go. I don't have to like I don't need the wind up of, like 45 hours to know what is important about beating the game. Like, oh, when you finally become an Elden Lord, what is it that your heart desires? Like, I don't know the first option that's in front of me. I don't care. I'm just here to kill whoever the real Elden Lord is, and I'm gonna beat his ass, and I'm gonna be the Elden Lord. Boop. Like that's as far as my motivation goes. Other people along the way are nice. If they give me stuff, that's even nicer. But I genuinely, unless they are, because I played the game with a wiki. So unless, I just said, I need this weapon, I need this armor, I need this stuff. And if they're part of that process, great. If not, I could care less. I just kept going. Um, and so it's hard to I don't feel like I get much of a choice or I get much of an opinion on the game because I didn't even approach it like a fan of the game. And I've never approached a Souls game like a fan of the game. I don't care about the story. I I am actively dismissive of it. So I can only go based on how it feels to play and how the bosses feel. And I think Elden Ring, maybe I just didn't maybe I didn't think about it or needed to think about it as much in Dark Soul games, but in Elden Ring I had to think way too much about builds, and that made me really upset because I don't care. I just want to be able to pick a silly build and go through it the whole game. But there were just some bosses that were like, "Oh, you've picked the wrong build, and it's going to take me or it's going to take you like 1,000 tries to beat this
I'm
boss."
really confused by the choice to make it so that you don't really gain proper access to most of the faith stuff until towards the end of the game, because that's thematically where they put all the faith stuff because it's the faith place, but then also from then on all of the bosses are resistant to faith.
Yeah.
they
And
need
you're like,
they
all
need
right,
to
well,
do
fuck
away
my
with
build then, I guess. What the
they
fuck?
need to do away
Yeah.
with the resistances.
And then throughout the
It
entire
shouldn't be a thing.
playthrough, I'm just better off using my fucking faith scaling weapons than I am any of the spells because they're like unusable. Like the spells take
Yeah.
so long to cast in so many cases that I'm like, how do you use this as like how do you be any kind of spell sword in this game when everyone's like Melania and Malakath? Like how they're not. When are they leaving you openings for these? Like I'm gonna use my dragon breath and it has a charge up. Like this isn't Pokemon. You can't sacrifice one turn of hits to pull off solar beam. Like no, you're just dead already. You stopped moving for 1 second and you died. I can't get enough
Yeah.
time to get a flask off. How am I gonna get off a spell that takes like 3 times as long to cast?
And so
They
that it funnels me into doing builds, or it funneled me into doing some builds that were like soul crushingly boring. And I'm sure I didn't need to do that. I could have found like some medium ground, I guess. But again, why am I going to sit here and do all this effort when I could just go pick up a sword that will like 3-shot any boss? Okay, that seems fine then. So what? Someone gonna like slide into my comment section like, actually, you didn't really beat Dark Souls because you didn't use you used a fancy sword that made it too easy. You should have used this. It's like, fuck you, dude. They gave me that weapon. I didn't cheat. I didn't do anything out of like extraordinary, right? I didn't do some kind of like the guy who did I can beat every boss in one punch. Like I didn't do that shit. I'm not sitting there drinking 15 potions, casting 3 different spells, and then stabbing myself with a weapon and then hitting a boss and it just dies. I'm not doing that. I literally just have a weapon that you can find anywhere that without doing any kind of special stuff besides upgrading it, you can just kill any boss. What the fuck's the purpose?
I
Why then?
really
Why bother with other builds? It's not incentivized. And the only reason you do it is much like Fashion Souls. You're like, I want to look cool while doing my thing. And it's like, or Monster Hunter, and you're like, I just really hate using the horn. I will only use the bug spear. And like that's the only kind of reason you would ever do any other build besides the ones that just wipe every enemy out. Because yeah, but I don't know. And again, then he goes back to what Keith's saying is like, yeah, but then what? How do you be a spell sword when bosses clearly aren't built to be an all-rounding enemy? They're not meant to accommodate any kind of build. They're meant to what feels like accommodate a very specific type of build, which is fast and quick and often hard hitting. Or I guess you can sit here for 3 hours and just slowly peck at a boss, but you still need to be quick at dodging. You still need to be very short like combos. You don't want to be sitting there like hitting 3 times because you don't have 3 times to hit these bosses. So like it's just I don't know. That sucks. It sucks really bad. And I don't think that makes a very for me it doesn't make a very fun boss rush game.
and
And
the justification that it's for forcing players to experiment, that's a bad justification. I understand that it might be for that. I understand that developers might be like, how do we force players to experiment? I know, let's give bosses different resistances. That might have been the intention, but that's not what happens. It doesn't force
but
players to experiment. It forces players to look up
is
what the
different.
resistances are because you can't tell what they are.
No,
Oh,
yeah.
you're not talking about resistances. Okay, yeah. But
No, but
like,
no, I just meant like not even if you take out resistances, like I'm not even accounting for the fact that bosses can just straight up negate entire
yeah,
entire
we
build.
talk about
I'm saying
movesets
that
as
like
well.
yeah, I'm talking about like move sets of bosses and the way that they do stuff isn't even accommodating for like a huge chunk of the possible builds.
Yeah.
And it's like again, sure you can do it, but it takes so much effort, so much work just to do something that you literally without effort could just do differently and win faster. And so like there is no motivation, right? I like when I beat Melania, when I beat the Beast Priest, I didn't feel any satisfaction doing it. I felt like
I
annoyance.
didn't.
Why
Yeah.
am I here? What the fuck was the point of this? You could have just put literally a different boss here and I would have had a way better time. Like just it was infuriating. And then you just walk away huffing and puffing. You're like, fuck, and this is like the last 2 bosses I have left, basically. And now it's the end of the game. So what the fuck was this whole area for? Like, you're just I don't know. It was just really bad back to back. Cause like just Melania or Beast Priest, Melania, and then last boss, or last two bosses, which I think was like the true Elden Lord. I don't know what first Elden Lord,
No
the fucking
spoilers. No
liar.
spoilers.
Some shitty ass liar confronts you, and you
Oh,
fight
the
him
one that
too.
Keith. Yeah,
And
that's not spoiler for Keith.
and yeah, and then you beat the game, and like then you fight the final boss and beat the game, and
I
it's
have
just
no
like
idea what's happening in this game. I,
yeah, well,
like
the
I
guy,
just
the guy who's
so
saying
I just
he's like
I
the
just found
first
a
Elden Ring
thread.
is like
I just found the thread that is like summarized this game's storytelling for me, which is that somebody wrote with a time code on one of my videos and then said, "Did you just confuse Godric with Godwin again?" And I was like, "How could anyone confuse Godfried? I'd never." And like I was joking, but then the next person responded with, "I think Keith confused Godfrey with Godwin, not Godric." I'm like, "Fuck."
Oh,
I made
the
up
person calling what? Confused?
I said Godfried as a joke, but there is a Godfrey that is a character. So I almost jokingly made up a character that actually also exists, because there is a Godric and a Godwin and a Godfrey, just like there's a Marika and Melena and Melania and Michaela, and how there's a Renala and a Rani and a Renanala and a Ran.
Yes.
There's like the real name and the fake name of the blue girl, but there's also the real name of the boss fight, and they're different people, and also sometimes they say they're the other person, and in that same fucking like tone, there's like 4 characters that are supposedly the Elden Lord, that the first Elden Lord, and none of them, and the game never clarifies which one is right. Like people just keep saying they're the first Elden Lord, and I'm like, you can't all be, because of what words mean. So what the fuck? Stop
and
all
also,
saying
like,
you're the first Elden Lord.
And the thing is, they're not saying though. It just says in the health bar, which is magic video game stuff, which is fine. But
There's
if it's magic video
there
game
are at least
stuff,
2 characters that like basically monologue that they're the first Elden Lord, including
oh, they
one
say
of them.
that. Oh, I didn't realize.
I think one of the humans does, and then also like the dragon does, and he's like, "I was the Elden Lord before there was even a tree." I'm like, I think this guy might be the real one, you guys. I think everyone else might be wrong. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
They
They mean nothing to us because they only interact with us while fighting.
Yeah, and then as they die, they
fight.
name drop another character that you don't know the name of, and you're like, okay, are they the first Elden Lord?
Yeah,
I can't tell what's happening.
I like that it's just like it's just like samurai logic. Like everyone just gets to take the title when their master dies.
I feel like I should compliment. I need to compliment
like,
this game because I did.
First Elden Lord died.
I did mostly like this game. It's just too long and too bloated with incomprehensible stuff and repeating content and so on. But like,
yeah, that's why I'm.
Where the story was really good.
Trying to be quiet.
Is that like you meet a bunch of characters throughout the game, and there's a few moments where they all come together in a cool way, like when characters that you recognize and you know and you care about show up at like Radon. Weird hiccup. They show up like the Radon festival. It's like there's like, oh, it's the jar guy, and oh, it's Blythe, and so on, and like then it's like, okay, this is a moment where characters that you know come together, and like the best part of the entire story of all of Elden Ring, as far as I can tell, is just the Renala's or Rani's Blythe's group's story.
Yes.
There's the dickhead spellcaster, and there's Blythe, the loyal guard, and then there's
an EG.
Yeah, there's EG, who is always way the fuck in the middle of nowhere and never shows up on that location. He has to call in via hologram because he has this one spot. And there's Rani herself. I don't remember. She has a real name, right? Isn't Rani a nickname? I'm not sure.
If she says she's Rani, that's all.
I'm
real
so
name.
confused by their names at some point that I can't remember them anymore. Yeah. But like, those characters have interplay with each other, and like sort of like little character arcs and motivation that are clear and understandable in human terms and communicated to you directly, and you can meet them both mandatorily and optionally throughout various areas. And they're like, if I remember correctly, elements of what they do, like they're tied directly into elements of the main story, such as like the meteor and Radon and so on. And like there's reason to come back and see them, and you want to see where it all goes. It's fucked up how towards the end you have to find a bunch of weird bonfire menu options to see half the story, and I didn't even realize that till afterwards because I found like the first one and then beat the boss and didn't realize I need to like play the whole zone again checking menus or something. I think I missed stuff there or something. But like besides that mess, like they are like a bunch of characters with motivations and storylines, and they're comprehensible and they have through lines, and they're mostly emotionally like satisfying in tragic ways because it does not go well for basically anyone by the end. But it's
Pretty
like
much.
and like they even act against each other's interests and so on, and you can see that happening. Like that's interesting, and it would be more interesting in a smaller game where you could reasonably see half of it because a bunch of it's secret and missable, and like many players will not meet Blythe or Ranni the first time the correct way or whatever. So like a lot of people just find that location and then they just meet everyone all at once, because Blythe is this obscure thing where you find a really specific location and hear a wolf howl, then go back to an NPC, and then he says, what you gotta do is you gotta snap your fingers, and then you go back to the wolf howl and you snap your fingers, and then you're like, hi, I'm Blythe, I want to fight this wolf man or whatever, and you gotta find the place wherever the fuck is the guy that he's hunting for, and hope you didn't already fight him to skip the storyline because you could have found him first. And then with
That's so interesting.
and with Ranni, you have to like go to the first bonfire with the same merchant once again. Like this merchant's weirdly important in a way where like I set me up to think the other merchants would have dialogue, and they never do ever again. They never have any character to them, but just the first one does. And like you have to like, I think you have to go to Ronnie's store. Yeah, I think you might have to accomplish some kind of milestone early on, and then you go to that specific church bonfire with the first merchant that has more personality, and you have to be there at nighttime. And then I think she puts them under a sleeping spell, and then you to meet her, but she lies about who she is, but you meet her as a character in like a cutscene even maybe or something. I don't know, I haven't seen it.
She doesn't lie about who she is. She lies about her name, which is
that's
irrelevant.
what I mean.
Yeah,
like that's the one where she lies about what her name is, and it's like, but like you can meet both those characters early, and it's like, it's weird missing that. And it's also weird that you can miss the entire storyline of Blythe being imprisoned, like that you just don't find out. Like you could just never find out that happened, and by extension,
Wait, Blythe was imprisoned?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
When?
After you do the Radon Festival and before you end Ronnie's storyline, E.G. imprisons Blythe in the same arena that you fought the first guy with Blythe with, which was also optional.
What?
So if you go to that specific cell, Blythe is imprisoned there, and he's like, "Help, friend! I can't believe he did this to me," or whatever. And then you go talk to Eiji, and he'll explain why he imprisoned Blythe, because he's supposed to turn on Ranni when she breaks the spell for her freedom or whatever.
Oh, I understood that after
Like,
the fact when he was talking about it, but I never knew that
he's
he imprisoned
cursed
him.
because he was created. I think he was created by whatever the fuck is tied to Ronnie's fate, and so she's supposed to fulfill her fate, and that force is how he exists or something.
Yes,
it's really hard to understand, not because I think a lot of the Ronnie stuff is actually relatively straightforwardly explained, but it's explained like one detail comes every 7 hours, so it's so hard to follow through the through line and what the words mean.
I got that impression as well. I got your understanding as well.
Like even by the end, I both didn't really understand what Ronnie's fate was or what her thing was she was going to do instead of her fate.
Oh, she didn't tell you.
Yeah, it's all really hard
to
follow because of how sparsely told it is and so on. But like, yeah, like when you're reaching the end of their storyline, Blythe is imprisoned in that cell where you fought in the Ever Jail where you fought the first guy that was like some kind of wolf knight with Blythe, and you can choose to let him out or not let him out, and that does not affect the story. No matter what, whether you let him out or not, he shows up at the tower after Ronnie's finished the story already. He never gets the chance to interfere or anything, and at that point you fight him after the story is already over, and then you kill him and get his armor. Like, there's like the hints of branching storylines that suggest that maybe they had more plan once. So like maybe even the Blythe and Ranni storylines incomplete. I can't tell which parts are the storylines being incomplete and which parts are just like the weird incompleteness of how they tell stories on a regular basis, where characters just kind of teleport around and they're just in a different chapter of their lives now all the time. But like, there's a choice that doesn't do anything, and that's a little weird.
Yep, I never knew that. That's interesting. I found out from your Let's Play that you can ask Blythe to help you fight that original dude in that particular jail, and that it was for you. It was so easy with Blythe's help that I was like, oh, that's why that guy was so difficult the first
Yeah.
time I beat him, because I beat him before I even met Blythe.
Because when he
And so
but when
and so
you
when he
meet
asked
him,
me,
he's like he's hunting that specific guy, and then he shows up as a summon specifically because that's it's like a story thing for him.
it's a really difficult fight without Blythe.
It's
Early on in
rough
the game.
like that early on and so
Yeah.
on.
That
Also, that
took me
is
like an hour.
that's also
I had to learn
if I remember correctly, that's like a Berserk reference fighting a Berserk reference. Like, I think Blythe fighting the Wolf Knights is like it's basically Guts with his broadsword being human-ish fighting against Guts in the Berserker armor, because that's like now that I'm that far in Berserk, I'm like, oh yeah, all of the various like ever since Dark Souls 3, I think they've had like quote unquote wolf knights that like move unnaturally and weird and on all fours, and they like tend to spin and soar through the air and like contort. That's Berserk also. That's another Berserk reference.
Yeah.
They move exactly
Yeah,
like
it's
the
just
Berserk
Berserk.
armor version of Guts. So that fight's really strange because it's two Gutses fighting each other. It's a trip. Elden Ring is full of so much cool shit that it's like game of the year if you could just like run all the good stuff end to end. But then there's so much awful. It's just so long and it's so overtuned and it's just grueling and tiring, and there's no pacing to it because of like there were a lot of easy boss fights in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 because like they aren't supposed to all stop you forever. There's some of them are supposed to just, be fun or interesting or weird. And a lot of them were just weird, like the Adjudicator or the Bed of Chaos or like some of those strange boss fights. Some of those are huge misses that needed to be fixed too. Like Bed of Chaos is just kind of torture, but they weren't.
Elden Ring has those misses as well. There's one boss that is an invisible assassin that is in a dungeon full of water, and you're supposed to look at the footsteps in the water, and it's boring and sort of unchallenging and just frustrating because you can't see the enemy. You never saw it, but like
I think there's a trick to see him, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can use a torch, but that torch requires 30 intelligence for it to work, as far as I can understand it.
Because I was remembering the fact that like I forgot which one it was, because there's also like the menus in this game are a mess in part because of how too much everything there is. So it's so hard to even figure out menus to put everything in and sort it all. But like the game does have there's definitely a whatever the fuck. How did you get clues? Oh, you buy them from merchants. Yeah, one of the merchant clues explains how to fight that exact boss fight.
Yeah.
But also those are like really strangely placed, so it's like I got a lot of clues after they were relevant already. Like I was late in the game when I realized that you can like teleport through the Liurnia of the Lakes. The Liurnia of the Lakes, like the teleport gate thing. And that the first gate you teleport through, you can turn around and walk back that way, and it's like a weird overgrown bridge. And there's a secret merchant in there, and he sells a bunch of tips.
Yeah.
And you're like, that would have been useful.
Those teleporters trip up a bunch of people. I really like that bridge area, that overgrown bridge.
It's a cool visual and a cool like little thing to run through. The downside of it is the fact that like because the first bridge you see is a physical wall that you have to teleport through, it sets up the idea that you need to use these teleporters to continue. And hiding behind one of those teleporters is the only way to continue the storyline with Shabriri.
I'm pretty sure they did it on purpose.
That becomes Shabriri.
I'm pretty sure they did it on purpose to trip up players like that. It's definitely not.
Why is this game so mean to me?
That's probably the smartest thing the game did. It's putting the teleporters just in the place
specifically.
To make it yeah. But like in the same area, there's this the walking islands with the bells.
Yeah.
There's a walking island that forces you to go all around the cliffs and then fall down halfway through the cliffs into like these big tombstones that are never explained, and shoot the skulls with an arrow. And it's the most boring part of the game, even more boring than the invisible invisible bosses, and it's just like the reward is you get to duplicate a soul that you're never going to use anyway. Like that area, I think is at the
That's
same
like-
time the worst and the best area.
It feels
It's not
weird
the
that
best,
there's
it's
like
the
so
worst
many
area.
walking things and they're all dedicated to these. The reward is just to duplicate a soul of a super boss dude, but the loot is like exclusive enough and awkward enough that you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll need it later, so you save all of those and you don't use
I
them
never
for
used any.
Yeah, like I don't
Because
use
of
any of them
course I
for
didn't.
souls because I might need them for an item at some point. Or like if I end up needing to have to change
Yeah, yeah.
builds or who knows what. But
Yeah.
then by the time you're late enough in the game, you think you know whether or not you need them anymore, and you're like, maybe I will use these. Like I had the idea of like, okay, let's get some souls. I'll hunt down every walking church thing, and
But it's faster to just farm souls.
I'll duplicate my most high yield boss soul. None of them are high yield.
It's
So I think
40,000.
yeah, I think the strongest one in the entire
Yeah.
game is 40,000, and I'm like, I take 120,000 to level. Like
And
these are
and it's
useless.
so fast. By the end of the game, you can get like 100,000 souls in 10 minutes, no problem. Like against just killing the sort of centipede kind of looking people that throws spell at you. Like it's just by the end of the game, you're basically leveling up every 20 minutes. And and I say that because by the end of the game, it's 200,000 souls to level up if you're like 170, 180.
Yeah, the game's
And
such,
even then
such a
you're
weird mix of
leveling
good and bad. Like the
Yeah.
meteor beast. Fighting the meteor beast on the top of the volcano as a capstone to the zone, and you can
thought it
fight
was
on
great.
and you can fight it on horseback and everything. Like that's cool.
I
But
thought
then
it
they
was
make you
great.
fight him
Looks
4 more
cool.
times, and all those fights are bad.
Yeah.
Including the fact, and
meteor
also
beast
because of the way
was-
this game works, I already fought that same boss in the Kaled mine.
Yep.
And so,
The
like,
first time around.
you spoiled the cool boss fight on top of the mountain. That's a capstone to the whole zone. Like, what the fuck? That's
Yeah.
supposed to be a cool moment, and I'm like, I already know what that guy is. So
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, it does spoil the.
there's
the
a lot of
entrance.
moments are defeated by the fact that they like recycle those exact enemies over and over again, and you might find the recycled, less cool versions in less cool arenas with less cool build up first. So it's not even
Mhm.
like when you fight the Tauros demon and then later on there's some other Tauros demons, and like they can pretty strongly guarantee that you're going to fight that Tauros demon first and then the other Tauros demons later. Therefore, the Tauros demon has the impact that he has. And so when you say the Tauros demon, people remember fighting him on a bridge. They don't like, you say the fucking like meteor beast or whatever, I think of that mine in Kaled. And I'm like, oh yeah, you did fight him later on the top of the mountain, which was supposed to be like the point of him. Like the
think there's
memory is
5 of them.
made ambiguous and messy. They used him again before, like outside the capital and so on. It's like,
There's a couple more
Dude.
places where he shows up. I think.
I don't know, it's just I
At
just
least
feel,
there's another
I see
place.
these as huge mistakes. It's just such, just
Yeah.
not. It's just these compromise the impactfulness of several parts of the game. They pad it out forever. There's just so many downsides to this approach.
It works for certain bosses though. Like the Tree Sentinel, I think was a good. Apart from the double Tree Sentinel that I don't think you ever saw. No, you didn't. You didn't fight them. Did you see the 2 Tree Sentinels by the Capitol, Keith?
You're asking
I
me
don't
to
think you did.
remember this game, and that's getting increasingly
Yeah, I know.
hard.
I think you ran past
The
them.
Tree Sentinel's
You
a
saw them and you
massively
were-
overused boss fight and starts to piss me off.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to the capital, you fight another Tree Sentinel every 20 minutes. You're like, okay, guys, I already had to fight one of
Yeah,
these
they're-
at every tree.
So
and they're like,
both-
and then they're
both-
like, here's a Tree Sentinel and a bunch of enemies. Fuck you. I'm like, I'm not fighting this one. I'm not fighting this one. I'm running past this guy. The one that's like in front of a door.
Both entrances to the capital are guarded by Tree Sentinels. One of them is the Draconic Tree Sentinel that you fought and killed in one shot, or not one shot, but one try. And that's the one in the entrance to the
Oh,
north.
wait, are you
The
talking
entrance
about
to
the horse guys?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm saying.
I thought you
yeah,
meant
yeah,
the other Tree
the avatars.
Sentinels. Yeah,
the
they're-
Three Avatars.
the names
Or-
get confusing. Yeah, I was thinking of the
I
Asylum
mean,
Demon reskin.
Yeah. That one is also very.
because when you're in the capital, you fight one of those guys. That's the one I was talking about. That you fight another one of him every
Oh,
20
yeah.
minutes once you're in the capital. And at one point, they're like, "What if
That's true.
what if he had a bunch of guards at the same time?" Like, fuck you! I'm running past this one. I'm not
Did you?
fighting
You
this
never
guy.
found. There's one battle where there's 2 of them. You fought them, right? There's one.
Which
there's 2 of them
one?
by a
The
tree.
Asylum one or the Torse one?
The Asylum.
Maybe.
The Tree
I don't
Avatar.
remember.
Yeah, it's in the snow area. It's easy to miss. There's like
I
this big
don't.
tree that doesn't have
I might
anything,
have.
and if you go,
I might have literally beat it and forgotten it because this game
yeah,
falls
yeah,
out of my
because
brain.
of course yeah. But the entrance to the capitals, the two entrances. The north one has the Draconic Tree Sentinel, which I loved. It was amazing. I loved it. And then there's the twin tree sentinels in the south entrance, and they are clearly made for you to summon. And as a single character, is just bollocks fight. And the bad thing about it, or it's good for me, but the bad thing about that fight is that if you sneak up to one of them, because you can, it's open world, you can sneak up to one of them, attack them. The other one doesn't aggro, so you can fight them one at a time, and it's totally fine. But I like the tree sentinels, the horse people, because the first time you find them early in the game, it's a big gauntlet, so you learn that boss very intimately if you want to fight it early on. And so every time it shows up, it's just like easy peasy lemon squeezy, and it's still this big hurrah of a fight that can still kill you and will kill you every once in a while. But they keep adding more and more stakes, I feel, the more you fight them, and specifically the Draconic Tree Sentinel, that is kind of similar to the Tree Sentinel that was right before Gorank, that I don't think you ever killed. That Draconic Tree Sentinel is really fun to fight, I feel, because it has like the machine gun fireball, and it's cool. I like that one. I also find it funny, Keith, that you were afraid of crabs the whole game. They made the crabs so much easier in this game, and you were like, "No, this is terrible. No, just attack them. It's fine. They're easier than wolves. It's the worst. It's the worst enemy."
Just spooky, and they're mad at me, and I don't like that vibe. Also, we gotta
lot of
wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
We're over time. This is your 7th podcast about Elden Ring. Let's go.
Let's do it next time, next week. Let's tune in for more, because Keith will know.
Sorry, I'm basically done with it. Like, I have finished and ejected it from my mind and have moved on forever.
I didn't mean to get
just
put
like
into it this long, because I'm struggling to remember the game, because I haven't.
No, it's
I literally haven't played it for at least 3 weeks. And then a lot of this stuff happened like months ago in some cases.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, it's not.
that's
A lot of
totally
it's
fine.
not sticking with me. And I went in knowing that this is going to be a problem. Like, I pointed it out immediately. I'm like, this is not a formula that goes to open world. What are we doing here? But anyway, see you guys next time. Good night. Go to bed.
Bye.
Wake up in the morning.
Good morning.
Go to job.
People-
anything you want to do. Happy birthday, etc.
Wow,
Happy
what
4th of July.
a culmination of
Got all my
things.
possibilities. Happy you survived Explosion Day a week ago.
Wow.
What?
And good night. Because Explosion Day was a week ago.
Oh, 4th of July. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Who's exploding? What the hell?
Hope your dogs are okay. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.